I think there's another revolution coming. I tend to steer it along with the achievement of a broader peace. When history is within reach.
So what Israel is fighting here is not merely a seven-front war, but an eight-front war.
It's called the Jews against Rome.
Rome and Jerusalem clashed over values with a great tragedy for the Jewish people.
Well, we lost that one. We have to win the next one.
But the new Rome, the United States,
Jews against Rome.
We stopped playing defense and have moved to offense.
The weapons change over time. You can't fight today with swords. That doesn't work very well.
But we need the kind of genius that manufactured Apollo gold pagers and infiltrated Hezbollah for over a decade to prepare for this battle.
But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are the social media.
Because the next war will be decided based on how Israel and its allies perform online as much as offline.
this is the eighth front, the disinformation campaign.
It is actually this eighth front where our enemies believe they can actually defeat the Jewish state.
This is the kind of ingenuity and inventiveness that have always been a hallmark of the state of Israel, that have always been a characteristic of the Jewish people. I know we can do it.
A lot of this is done with money.
Invested billions and billions of dollars in the information battlefield.
Money of NGOs, vast. Money of governments, vaster.
We prohibit harmful stereotypes about Jewish people, such as claims that Jews control financial, political, or media institutions.
You're damn right we're going to cancel them and deplatform them.
We monitor them online, social media, messaging apps, video games, cryptocurrency.
Hitler admirers, Stalin admirers, Jew haters.
Podcasts, short-form video, Wikipedia, LLM.
American haters, Churchill haters.
We monitor these people and we share the intelligence with the FBI.
You think your stupid little podcast is going to change the world like hell it is?
Social media, this is the new battlefield.
You don't get to wrap your psychotic, mental, unhinged Nazi.
We do not allow Holocaust denial and distortion.
And the most important purchase that is going on right now is
TikTok.
TikTok. TikTok, number one.
For every 30 minutes that someone watches TikTok, they become 17% more anti-Semitic.
So you have TikTok just smashing our young people's brains all day long with video of carnage in Gaza.
And so we really have a TikTok problem.
Because anything that we try to say to them, they are hearing it through this wall of carnage, and I sound obscene.
Anti-Zionism is just Jew hatred.
We made a change.
We updated our policies
to
designate the use of the term Zionist
To recognize that the term Zionist
as a proxy for a protected attribute
can be used as a proxy for Jews and Israelis.
as hate speech.
Why can't Israel be doing some sort of, counterintelligence?
Right now, the ADL is co-writing Sunday school curriculum.
Information warfare like this.
It's building the technology to train the LLMs more effectively.
Like psychological operations in America.
As part of a robust framework to combat anti-Semitism, we have industry-leading policies designed with the safety of the Jewish community in mind.
You're right, we control the media. So what are you going to do about it? You're going to bitch on Twitter? Like, okay. Meanwhile, we're going to control more of the media.
And working with OpenAI, with Alphabet, with Anthropic, with Meta, with Microsoft, we are working with them now to train the LLMs.
We also have, I think, over 24 Jewish organizations that are constantly feeding us intelligence and information.
So number one, we measure and track. Number two, we monitor and disrupt. We have a whole apparatus. I have 40 analysts working full-time, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, monitoring extremists.
Monitoring campuses, digital networks, activist groups, and public officials.
We have several PhDs on staff. We have a network of academics and scholars we work with around the country.
I've talked to the leaders of AI in the world, and you ask yourself, there's so many blessings in this, but there could be a curse.
First thing a country needs to do is to unify all of their data so it can be consumed and used by the AI model.
We need to invest in intelligence to understand who are the anti-Semites, who is funding them, what's their plans, who are the leaders, and then once we have that, we can define who is an enemy we can attack.
You have to take all of your healthcare data, your diagnostic data, your genomic data. We have to take all of this data we have in our country and move it into a single, if you will, unified data platform.
Once we have all this information, we need to empower and mobilize an ecosystem of many organizations that we can incentivize them to work together, to share, and to fight against our common enemies.
Mobilizing millions of people, of allies that are quietly by our side.
Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
Anti-Semites, most of these people running around, we're not going to win their hearts and minds because they don't have hearts and they don't have minds. So, how are we going to, there's no reason to think we're ever going to convince them, but we can deport them, we can put them in jail, we can make their lives miserable, we can cut off their funding.
You've got all these conspiracy theorists online going on and on about how, if you try and say anything, if you try and do anything against Jews, they're going to come after you.
We have featured more than 1,000 anti-Semites.
And they're going to destroy you and take away your business, and therefore you have to be really, really scared.
These Jew haters have faced real consequences, including firings, suspensions, and expulsions.
And it's kind of starting to become true.
We will shine a light on you that will follow you for the rest of your life. When you look for a job, when you look for a spouse, when you look for a nanny, when you look for anything.
And I love that. I love it.
We remove hate speech against Zionists when these harmful stereotypes about Jews are invoked.
In the past 12 months, ADL's filed more lawsuits than in the prior 112 years.
Over the weekend, I received concerning news that I was being sued for $5 million.
Vicious, communist, racist, Jew-hating, Israel-bashing monster.
Defendant frequently posts anti-Israel rhetoric accusing Israel of controlling the United States and its politicians.
We at the ZOA will fight these dangerous and monstrous lies with all of our hearts and souls. No appeasement, no conciliation, only a war against this racist hatred of the Jewish people.
When there is a war, it doesn't matter who your enemy is. You need to destroy their offspring to prevent them from creating more offspring.
What you try to do is you want to corral your victim, but in fact, your countries are the victim. So you dehumanize a group of people in human society, and you prepare them for the kill, for the butchery.
A government can do in 2 months more than any organization can do in its lifetime.
The J7 is comprised of the 7 largest diaspora communities. We meet every other week via Zoom to share information, to share best practices.
And we're running everything all the time, from focus groups to attitudinal surveys to randomized controlled trials to identify what interventions work most effectively.
Finally, we have meetings that are some off the record, some on the record with world leaders, in which we share our community's concerns and call for action.
The entire education system in this country, from K through 12 and colleges, must be reformed.
But it's time to limit the First Amendment in order to protect it.
The way we solve anti-Semitism is pretty goddamn simple.
Take control over what they are saying.
Send their ass to jail. It's not complicated.
And quickly before it's too late.
We're monitoring political Islamists and Christian nationalists, all of them. And then we train. We're the largest trainer of law enforcement in America. Extremism hate. We train 20,000 officers every year.
Try that again.
Here because of the comments made online about the Jewish community.
We deeply value our partnership with law enforcement. We've been working with them literally since the FBI was founded in the 1930s.
Is that your account?
That guy who consistently calls for the death of all Palestinians, that can probably incite somebody to do something radical. That's why we're here to talk about, I would think, to refrain from posting things like that.
We are going to have a whole division within the office of the Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism that is going to work on technology.
We must take all of our technological expertise and all of our available resources to develop methods to launch and win a significant counter-information campaign.
The products of our technical capacities and sometimes technical and intelligence genius, and we're happy to do it.
The office is going to be revamped entirely to be one of the highest profile offices in the State Department.
Because it's not working. Too many young people have never heard of the Holocaust.
All right, everybody. Excuse me. Here we go. Today is Thursday, August 20th, 2026. My name is Rob Carter. Welcome, Isaiah, and welcome everybody to the Future #1 podcast in America, where you get real journalism. This will be the future of news. We all know that. Fox News and CNN, they will die, and you'll have deconsolidated news where people like myself and many others around the country will create the news and the narratives for you so you don't get locked up in the nonsense that is corporate media. Today on the show, we're going to talk about how radical Islam and radical Zionism work together. This is the story of the century, now that it's all starting to come to light, and the information is all out there for people to attain, to understand, to see. We're going to give it to you. I think we're the first ones in the country that have made this connection. Are we not, Isaiah? I have not heard anybody talking about it. We're going to bring you more information today. There are people that they're not recognizing this. So radical Islam they're coming. They're going to come to destroy us. And I say, yeah, but who's allowing them in here? What's causing the radical Islam? Well, that's radical Zionism. So radical Zionism creates the conditions for radical Islam. We invite them into our country. Our sold-out puppet masters in Washington, D.C. fund it all, and you and I get caught up in the spokes. That is the reality of the world that we live in, and the sooner we understand it, the sooner we can begin the war against it. That's the problem. Nobody recognizes what is happening. They have to take a side. We're so polarized. It's Democrat, Republican, Islam, Zionism. Islam, radical Islam, and radical Zionism, it's the same thing. They are working together to infiltrate and destroy the American way of life. You're not going to notice it because it's going to happen drip, 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 drip. And then you're going to wake up one day and go, remember when we were free, honey? Remember when we were free? Remember how awesome it was? We could walk the streets and everything was fine. And, I could use my money. I could buy something without the government being involved. I wasn't spied on with flock cameras and AI data centers all over the planet. Remember that, honey? That's the way it's going to be before too terribly long.
Good old days, right?
The good old days. So we're going to get to it here in just a minute. Let me just set up the show because we're going to talk about radical Islam and what they're doing, what the Jewish-controlled Zionist media is doing right before the elections. What do they like to do? They like to scare you with Islam, and that's what they're going to do. Not saying there's anything not to be afraid of, but they're the ones that are doing it. They're the ones that are allowing it. So we have to recognize that connection. Again,
highest,
you got to remember, if you're listening from around the country, the borders were flooded while we had a Cuban Jew by the name of Alejandro Mayorkas controlling the borders in the Biden administration. That's what we have to remember. So a Jewish person, Alejandro Mayorkas, that is on the board of HIAS, Hebrew Immigration. He's the one that was impeached by the House of Representatives. Then it moves over to the Senate. And who stops the trial from happening in the Senate? Radical Zionist Chuck Schumer. All by design, of course. All by design. Remember all the Zionists that have tricked you recently. Think of Dan Bongino. How many times have we talked about Dan Bongino being an absolute shill for the Zionists? Remember the video I used to play way back in the day where he's asked what's the most important to him? And he said, the protection of Israel. I'm thinking what the FBI director, the most important thing to the FBI director is, or deputy FBI director is the protection of Israel. Remember that, Isaiah?
He probably got that from Lindsey Graham.
Of course. Lindsey Graham's another one. They're everywhere. That's what Fox News is. Fox News should be called the Zionist Sly as a Fox propaganda outlet. That's what it should be called. How about that, Isaiah? That was pretty good. Right off the top.
I like that. Just right off the dome.
Not bad, right? So, and we're going to talk a little bit about Missouri politics as well, because what I want to talk to the audience around the country about is you have to really put everything into context, because you're busy. You're trying to feed your family. You don't know what's real and what's fake anymore, by design, of course. So as you look out into the landscape, we're going to make the picture just a little bit more clear for you.
Yeah. And especially when you got people like Biddy Johnson coming out and saying, this is undeniable evidence. Look, the case is shut and closed. There's nothing else to look into. And it was all a lie, right?
As Bonnie says, protect Israel, God's chosen people. Isaiah, you got a degree in Bible study. Do you want to address that? I don't know if that's being sarcastic or not.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's they were chosen, but now they are, they've been cut off, is what Paul tells us.
All right.
And so they've been cut off for the sake of the Gentiles. And there is a remnant there are Jewish people who believe Jesus is Messiah, right? And they are still on the branch, as Paul talks about, the olive branch. But it also tells us that they've been cut off for now. And they have the opportunity to be grafted back in if they accept Jesus as the Messiah. But for now, it says that they're cut off, and us, the Gentiles, the nations, the non-Jews are grafted in.
Not if you listen to Mike Huckabee.
So, no. If you listen to Mike Huckabee, he thinks that
Zionist fraud.
Yeah, he thinks that Genesis 12, I think it is, where it says those who bless you, right?
Yeah.
Will be blessed. He thinks that's talking about Israel when it's speaking to Abraham.
I don't think that he thinks that at all. I think that he is a puppet for the bigger scheme. That's why he was a political candidate. That's why he was on Fox News. Mike Huckabee is a disgusting pig. And look what happened with his daughter. Sarah Huckabee becomes the press secretary for Donald Trump. Then she becomes the governor of Arkansas. And then what does she do when they try to fix the elections down there with hand counting paper ballots only? She says, no. You're not going to be counting ballots by hand, because then we would have real elections, and we're not going to allow real elections. That was Sarah Huckabee. Okay, people have to understand what is happening. This is right underneath their nose, and I know it frays the nerves and destroys the perceptions of vast portions of American society, but you have to get with it. You have to put down everything that you think you know, because it's been contrived. That's why we talk about Bernays all the time. I should start with Bernays every day.
I know.
Bernays
Don't think just listen to us, right? Listen to the party, fall in line.
Listen to the party. Listen to the party. That's what the party will divide you. It'll be Democrat and Republican, Islam versus Judaism. They'll split everything up. That's by design. So it doesn't matter whether you think somebody is telling you the truth, like a Nick Fuentes. If Nick Fuentes is causing division, they like him. If whoever is causing division, algorithms like, the big money likes, the Zionists like, the Islamists like. But if you try to organize people, if you try to unite people like Charlie Kirk was trying to do, kaboom, baby. As John F. Kennedy was trying to do, as Robert F. Kennedy was trying to do, as Martin Luther King was trying to do. If you try to unite people, that's when you get yourself into trouble. You can say something that's true, but if it's dividing American citizens, it works for them. Anybody that tries to say, wait a minute, it's not left versus right, it's us versus them, those people ultimately get themselves in a big, in just a little bit of trouble, if you understand what I'm saying. If they survive it. It's hard to even survive it. That's why I'm a little bit nervous about getting the program to be too big. I am.
No, right? It is. I think about those things too. It's like, oh my gosh, it's what happens when, because we already see what happens here with Missouri.
I'll tell you what will happen, Isaiah. Can I tell you what will happen?
Of course, yeah.
when we become the number one show in the country, which will happen, anybody that knows me knows that this is my total focus, and at some point it's going to happen. I mean, you just have to know my background. I'm 56 years old. I have a long history, and when I put my mind to something, I'm tough to deal with. I will tell you what happens when I'm sitting on a college campus explaining to the kids in college what's going on in the world. I'll have somebody man the rooftops.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that my friends, not some organization or the FBI or the college police or the state of Utah. No. Robb Carter's buddies, my friends that I've had since school, they'll be on the top of the roofs with guns. I won't leave it up to the system, because the system is the problem. The system is what's taking your freedom and liberty away. That is a fact, Jack. Isaiah, how many times do I have to say it?
That's the fact, Jack. That's a fact, Jack.
Absolute fact. Radical Islam, radical Zionism, using each other to infiltrate and destroy the United States of America. That is what is happening. Now, what is today? It's the 20th. I've been talking about this for a little bit, but I want people to just look out into the world and watch how many people start talking like Robb over the course of the next year. I've been doing it for a long time. My concepts get taken by other people, which I find very flattering. Everybody gets and says, Robb, I heard you say it. Now so-and-so say it. So-and-so. I don't care. It's not important to me at all. It used to aggravate the hell out of me until my buddy Phil said, Robb, this is the nature of politics. This is the nature of media. You put something out into the world, somebody of influence will see it. They'll start to talk about it. They'll make it their own. You can't get upset about it, because if you're involved in trying to get to the truth, then more people that steal your concepts, the better. I agree with that philosophy. I'm right there with them. Okay, I get it. So today on the show, when I said we're going to get to some Missouri politics, you have to understand that the state and local politics have been infiltrated by the national politics, which is run by international big corporate money. So it's a cascading effect. It starts with the international bankers. It starts with the international technocrats. It starts with the intelligence agencies. That's where the power really lies. They fund both sides of the aisle, the Democrats and the Republicans. It filters down into the state governments, and then it filters down into the local governments. That is an absolute 100%, no doubt about it. You cannot refute it. Fact. That is how the system works. We had an IDF general come to the state of Missouri and meet with our governor, and nobody said, what's going on with that? That seems kind of odd. That seems kind of weird. Why would an IDF general come to the state of Missouri and have a private meeting with our governor? Why would the state of Missouri?
What if a Chinese general came?
Exactly, or anything, or any general that isn't an American general.
Yeah.
This
or
is
an
how
Iranian
they're
general.
Right, they have big Jewish money, big donor money that is connected to both the state of Israel and America. They're connected to both, but they're not like Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin. Have you listened to those guys? Do you really believe that they have America's best interest at heart, or Israel's? What do you think? Of course. And then if you look back at 9/11, you've got
Mark Levin's an American patriot, right?
Of course. You got the Jewish connection. Let's talk about 9/11, and then we'll get to it. You got 9/11, where the World Trade Centers were owned by who? Larry Silverstein. Is that Islamic, Isaiah? Silverstein. No. Is that an Islamic name? I don't think that's Islamic. But the terror group was from where? Oh, it was from Saudi Arabia. Well, that's kind of interesting. So Saudi Arabia attacks the World Trade Centers. Larry Silverstein, who owns the World Trade Centers, who bought them at a fraction of a cost and then got an insurance policy for $4.55 billion. The only day in his entire life that he doesn't go to work happens to be 9/11. And nobody went, let me see here. That seems a little bit odd, does it not, Isaiah? But because we don't have any kind of press, and because the press is run by Zionists and they use Islam to divide America, well, then it works perfectly.
Yeah.
It's disgusting and very obvious. It's just a matter of getting past your initial perceptions, getting past all the Fox News and the CNN propaganda, getting past both party apparatuses. Both the Democrats and Republicans suck. They are frauds. I'm so sick and tired of party politics. I could puke. It's embarrassing. These two sides work together. It's like professional wrestling. It's a joke, an absolute joke. There is no such thing other than in your perception of Democrats and Republicans. And I'm talking about the people that make the rules, not the people that vote. There's definitely differences, ideological differences between conservatives and liberals. I'm not denying that. I'm saying the people that run it, they use those ideological differences to take all the money and steal your liberty and stick needles in your arm and leave your borders wide open and indoctrinate your kids.
Communists are coming, Robb.
The communists are coming. Right before the elections, the communists are coming. All right, let's start here. Sheriff Bonham will be on at 9:45, so we got about a half an hour of getting deep into it, and then we'll have Sheriff Bonham talk about constitutional sheriffs, which we need, in my opinion. I think we need constitutional sheriffs in the state of Missouri and around the country. We'll have Act 4 Missouri on at 10:30, Amy Castro and Michael Compton. We'll talk about some amendments that are going down in Missouri. We can talk to them about the Republican and Democrat parties, see what they think of it. And then we'll have Jake Jackson, turning into a celebrity, Jake Jackson, in the state of Missouri. We'll talk about what he sees is anti-Muslim rhetoric being used against conservatives to distract them from the things that really matter. So we'll have 3 guests on today, but let's start here. Isaiah, Robert David Steele, clip number 1. If you don't know this guy, he was very popular in alternative news circles. He was a CIA guy. And then toward the end of his life, he started going on all the alternative news stations like InfoWars and the like and said, this is what's really going on in the world. And I used to listen to him and I would keep him a little bit at arm's length. And I'd say, well, I don't know. Maybe. I could see where he's coming from. But now we have hindsight in the rearview mirror and everything that he's talking about is checking out and it's turning out to be true. And he's no longer with us, wouldn't you know? Here is Robert David Steele. Let's start here, clip number 1.
Started as commercial insurance fraud. It was known in 1988 that the Twin Towers were condemned because they didn't want to pay the $2 billion to dismantle the buildings the hard way. Controlled demolitions was forbidden. When that was briefed to Dick Cheney as Secretary of Defense, I believe he said, praise the Lord, this is going to be a terrorism event that will give us a reason for invading Iraq and Afghanistan. And at that point, the 9/11, which was planned and executed by the Zionists, which is not the Jews. When I say Zionists, I'm talking about what's called the Red Mafia. That's the Russians, Israelis, and Americans who are a criminal network that happens to control Benjamin Netanyahu. It does not control Donald Trump. People don't understand that Trump is biding his time. The NSA is not about solving problems or making America safe. It's about keeping the money moving. The second reason that the program was canceled was because it was starting to reveal all of the Americans who were complicit in 9/11. The problem we have in the United States is that the intelligence community is all about spending a great deal of money doing very bad things. So let's say overall there's about 300 things that the intelligence community should be reporting on. They don't. They report on 2 things, war and terrorism. And in both cases, they're the ones starting the wars and funding the terrorists.
Okay, now we play the clip all the time of funding the terrorists. We have somebody that says, because if I'm wrong, I want to give credit to somebody. I've never heard anybody say that radical Islam and radical Zionism work together to overthrow America. I have not heard that from anyone. If it's out there, as who Glass Blaster says, well, then show me where it's at. If somebody can, I've never heard anybody say it before. So if it's out there in the world and people are talking about it, I want to join into that conversation. If it's not, shut your pie hole. Fair enough? I'd like to see it. I just want to know where it's at. Where is this information that these two are working in tandem with each other to destroy America? Where is it? Because if you have that information, share it with me, and I will apologize, and I'll put it out there, and whoever said it first, I'll give them the credit for it. How about that? Is that fair? Have you heard it, Isaiah? I've never heard anybody say that before. I don't see that in the news. I don't see that in alternative media. I don't see any major platform.
I think if I've heard someone
talking about that
about it, that's a media personality. Maybe someone like Brandon Straka, maybe, but I can't remember if I've heard him say that necessarily.
Oh, he says the Polish. Hang on, I want to see what this guy has to say.
Oh, the Polish.
The Polish may be saying it, but I don't live in Poland, so I don't get to hear all that.
We don't care what the Poles say.
What's he say? Where is it? What did he just put something up there? I want to see what he said. Okay, there we go. I'm way behind with the accounts of it.
The chat.
Yeah, what did he say? Literally, that's the. Hang on, I just had it. Literally, that's exactly what the Polish say. Listen to Polish politics amongst many others. Okay, I'll check it out. I have a very good friend who came from Poland in 1984. He lives in Kennebunkport, Maine, one of my favorite people in the world. I will see him next month at my golf trip. He'll know all about Polish politics because he's in tune with politics. He knows George W. Bush. They have they're members of the same golf course together. So we'll find out what's going on. And Glass Blaster, is that what it is? Glass Blaster?
Yep.
I have not heard it in the American press. If that's something that's going on out there, I apologize. I have not heard it. So I'll check it out.
Yeah. Is it on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC or CBS or? I don't think so.
Yes. Let's
Yeah.
look at, I want to play this. Now, this is a long one, but I want people to really pay attention to it because I want to get it in before we bring in Sheriff Bonham. It's clip number 2. My friend Stephen MK Ultra says Dearborn is first place for the Muslims. Yep. Well, Jake Jackson will talk about that because now they're starting to ramp up
Oh,
the
yeah.
fear of Muslims. So we allow Muslims into our country. We pay for all the Muslim towns. We got checks going out in D.C., checks going out in New York City, checks going out in Dearborn, checks going out all over the country to support the Muslim invasion. And then the press starts talking about the Muslim invasion and how we must stop it. It's a trick of, it's really quite interesting, honestly. Let's go with clip number 2. Now, this woman's name is Ali Runyon. I'm trying to get her on the show. She's getting a lot of traction now on social media. I check the social media people that do their own research and then get it out there, and I watch it get suppressed over time. Their programs usually start really strong because people are paying attention to them, and then they kind of fizzle out because they won't hit your algorithms. You'll move on to something else, and you won't remember them. But this Ali Runyon claims that her family had a trust, and she's starting to watch how these trusts work. Insurance scams, banking scams, and she's tying it to 9/11, and she's tying it to Dick Cheney, and she's tying it to our government, allowing it. So it's not 9/11 truth. Or in fact, I'm somebody who never really got into 9/11. In fact, when I was on my radio program, people used to complain about it all the time. They said, Rob, you need to talk more about 9/11.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know what there is to say about 9/11 necessarily because it's so confusing. I don't really understand what's going on. But after, maybe 6 months of just paying attention to what people were sending me, I'm like, okay, well, I see where you're coming from. You certainly make a good case. There's no doubt about that. Let Ali Runyon make the case. She's going to talk about an insurance policy that was taken out on the building number 7. And who was getting the money with insurance on building number 7? Did anybody know that Dick Cheney was behind that? Does anybody know that Dick Cheney went to one of our club schools, Yale, where all the real power's at, Yale and Harvard? Anybody know that? I didn't know that. All right, clip number 2. This is Ali Runyon, and then she's gonna promote a video. And I watched that video last night. I watched it again this morning, and it's you got to stick with it or get the general concept of what this guy's talking about because he said, "I'm not going to give you any opinion. I'm just going to give you the facts. I'm not going to get into anything else. I'm not going to get myself in trouble. I'm just going to give you the facts. Listen to the facts that he lays out." I have not done the research to verify it, but Ali Runyon has. And I think it's just fascinating that this isn't common knowledge in this country. Clip number 2, Isaiah.
Was 9/11 an inside job? Well, it's just today that I went back and revisited Dick Cheney's financial disclosure from 2001 and 2002. And does everybody know that Solomon brothers, Solomon Smith Barney, who were the majority owners of World Trade Center 7, Dick Cheney was a big investor, and they paid him out for the destruction of that building. Does everybody know that?
No.
Does everybody know that Dick Cheney was paid by EDS, Electronic Data Systems, throughout his vice presidency? And they're who managed an integration in the states of Ohio and Texas to amend records, not just amend them, destroy records associated with the Texas company Gulf Oil, as well as the Farm Bureau. But it's this Solomon Smith Brothers building, World Trade Center 7, that everybody needs to think about. And I found a video that just nails it. And it is Citibank, because we discussed how Citibank Farmers was the fake entity from the 1920s that they bring back after Bank One's fake little Farmers Bank and Trust is shut down in the 80s. Now, all of this happens after the death of the first CEO of Nationwide, who was the longtime face of the Farm Bureau, first director in Farm Bureau history, and chairman over all Nationwide and Farm Bureau companies for 25 years. Yeah, he passes away in March of 91. It does take the Glass-Steagall Act and all of the financial deregulation under Lawrence Summers, aka Larry Summers, and Bill Clinton. But Bill Clinton, even before he signs that law into effect, had started to allow JP Morgan Chase and a host of banks who were also paying the Clintons off to begin securities underwriting and insurance underwriting long before he signs that law. So this is worth seeing, everybody. And make sure you watch this video because this guy nails it. And we forget that Citibank merges with...
Okay, so when she introduces this guy that does this video, He's going to talk about 9/11 and who benefited from 9/11 as it is aligned with insurance companies. Okay, so remember Larry Silverstein. Everybody, people may recognize Luke Radowski, that guy's name. Larry Silverstein, who owned the World Trade Centers, was doing a press conference at one time, and Luke stood up and goes, you didn't go to work that day. There's a lot of questions about that, and they escort him off. And that is when society started to go, wait a minute, what's he talking about? Because up until that point, maybe 15 or 20 years after 9/11, the masses had no idea that the owner of the World Trade Centers, who bought them at a fraction of a price, took out insurance on them and benefited $4.55 billion when he bought the World Trade Centers that were in disrepair and had to get all of the asbestos out of them. Nobody really knew those stories. And then you connect these insurance frauds to Dick Cheney. Remember Dick Cheney had, what was the name of his operation that was doing all the contracting work when we went into Iran the first time around? Halliburton. Everybody remember these things? What you're going to start to see is the grift of our political system. And the reason I think there's a grift within the political system is I do not think our politicians have any power. They're puppets. They get the benefit of understanding what is happening. And I'm talking about the big time politicians. I'm talking about the people that make it to the top of the executive branch. That's my take on what's happening. Because again, I just remind our audience, if you just slow down for a second and think about what is happening, there is no chance that the American people would be voting for the things that are happening in this country. Nobody would vote to have a $40 trillion debt that can never be paid back. Nobody would vote for open borders for 50 years. Nobody would vote for the federal government and the states to be able to stick a needle in your arm by mandate, or you can't work for the federal government. And if you don't want to take it by mandate, then the corporations will either take your job away from you, humiliate you. You'll have the press call you a murderer. These are all things that are happening in this country. And you'll really start to recognize that nothing ever happens to those people. All of the people that are stealing, defrauding, lying, organizing against the American people, nothing ever happens to them. They skate every single time. And this generation's going, boy, what about Russian collusion with Donald Trump? When are those people going to go down? When's James Comey going to go down? It's probably going to happen tomorrow. Probably tomorrow, Isaiah, right? If we ask you, it's going to happen tomorrow. You just got to trust the plan. It's going to happen. I don't believe it's going to happen. I think it's all nonsense. That's my take. Could be wrong, but that's my take. We have to see the world as it's happening and not through the lens of the rhetoric that is being shoved down our throats. We have got to be able to think for ourselves, ask the proper questions. What did Charlie Kirk say? We have to continue to ask questions, because when we stop asking questions, we stop being free. And that is why we are protected by the First Amendment to the Constitution, because if you cannot question and challenge Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Bush, Obama, if you cannot, Biden, if you can't challenge them, then they'll do whatever they want to do. They'll say whatever they need to say. And then when they suck just bad enough, you'll vote for the other party and they'll do the same thing. And then you'll say, we've had enough of them, and they'll bounce it back to the other party. And that ping pong game will go on from now until forever. And in the meantime, you're going to hate your neighbor. You're going to go, I can't, Uncle Bill's coming over today. He's going to talk about how much he loves Barack Obama. I don't even want to go. I don't want to listen to it anymore. Or Uncle Robb's coming over to talk about Donald Trump. I can't stand Donald Trump. I just don't want to even see him anymore, honey. We don't even want to go to we don't want to go to the birthday party today. I don't want to talk politics with these people. They set you up to destroy each other as they get $40 trillion in debt. They control the interest rates. They control inflation. They control the wars. They control the medicine. They control the food. They control the skies. They control the water. And we are just subjects in their game. And at some point, we must rise up and say, enough is enough. We're going to take our governments back. We're going to have real currency. We're going to have real information. And we're going to have a society that can be joyful once again, because right now we do not have a joyful society. It seems almost impossible anymore to have a joyful society. Everything is based around politics. Everybody is fighting over something they don't even understand. But when you get right down to brass tacks, it is these con artists that are on our television screens every day, led by Fox News, in my opinion, because I think they're the best at it. These con artists are destroying our country, and they must be called out for it. Did you see Matt Gaetz this morning put out on social media? He said, I cannot imagine anybody under the age of 50 watching Fox News. And I'm thinking, under 50? I can't imagine anybody watching Fox News after they've been promoting war with the Republican Party from now until forever. And you got Sean. How do people with a straight face watch Sean Hannity still? Sean Hannity has had the same game going on for 26 years. He was out there with Darlene Graham, Lindsey Graham's sister, talking about how she knows all about national security because she was his sister. It's imbecilic. It's impossible to watch. It's nauseating. But anyway, let's get back to this lady. She's going to bring on somebody who did a documentary about the insurance behind 9/11. It's a little bit complicated. Stick with it as long as you can, but get the gist of it. Continue on, Isaiah.
Travelers, everybody. JP Morgan Chase was barred from merging with Travelers for a reason. But all of this is what led to the biggest insurance payouts of all time. And we had our vice president and president among the beneficiaries. Yep, it's a fact.
And there had been no bodies to recover. Back from that building before what you're about to see again here on videotape, knowing
there's a handful of things that you really can't make YouTube videos on.
Because of
this is one of them.
Since shortly after 9/11.
For some reason, some people consider the September 11th terrorist attacks to be a sensitive subject. They generally find it to be in poor taste to make bizarre claims and speculation. Yeah, the towers were actually holograms. The real buildings were in an airfield somewhere in Ohio. About an event that led to the deaths of nearly 3,000 people and like 1 million Iraqis. So I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not going to be speculating about anything directly involving deaths of real-life people with real loved ones. In fact, I'm not going to be presenting or putting forth any theories at all. We're not going to be diving into the what or how, A, because I'm absolutely not allowed to, and B, because that has all been explained to death thousands of times over the past quarter century. So we're going to be sticking to the party line regarding what happened that day. My goal is merely to give some context towards the financial and historical side of things in the hopes that you might notice a pretty compelling why. This is the story you may not know about how a couple hours after the 9/11 attacks, a third completely evacuated building suddenly collapsed, destroying the evidence for basically every single financial crime of the 1990s. If you can't tell, this is a video about the unbelievably incriminating financial ties of Building 7, the other building that collapsed that day. Now, let's begin with the government's explanation of what happened, courtesy of the National Institute of Standards Technology, or NIST for those who hate acronyms. On September 11, 2001, WTC-7, a 47-story steel-framed building, collapsed at 5:20 p.m. due to fires ignited by debris from the Twin Towers collapse. These fires, fueled by office furnishings, staplers and Post-it notes, caused thermal expansion in floor beams, dislodging a girder from column 79, leading to a progressive collapse. Man, demolitions engineers are like scamming the hell out of us if that's all it takes to make a building do that. For the sake of this video, that is what happened. There are no alternate explanations or theories. For example, the kind of thing that, were it to exist, might have been done by the structural engineering department at the University of Alaska, Fairbanks. University of Alaska, what would they know about secret government crap? This is a good thing, because in this hypothetical scenario, websites like YouTube or Wikipedia would probably not allow people to talk about this purely fictional, hypothetical 125-page paper called A Structural Reevaluation of the Collapse of World Trade Center 7, and that would make this very frustrating to talk about. But because there's no $314,000 four-year investigative study and associated 125-page paper called A Structural Reevaluation of the Collapse of World Trade Center 7 by Professor J. Leroy Hulsey, PhD, P.E.S.E., the best explanation is the NIST report. So, we're going to move on. Enter Larry Silverstein, a.k.a. Lucky Larry, a New York real estate mogul with a rabbit's foot surgically attached to his soul.
Okay. So World Trade Center 7, I never really got into that conspiracy that it was demolished intentionally. What he's talking about is a paper. I started to do a little bit of research on that last night, and this paper was written that explains the impossibility of the official story being correct. Impossible for the building to come down in the manner that they say. Now, these are people with not political ties, but scientific ties, saying that Building 7 had to be intentionally collapsed through demolition. That's what he's talking about. Does everybody know that? Do people know that that's out in the world? I did not. So if that's common knowledge about 9/11, I did not know that. So the paper that was written says that this was a structural demolition of Building 7. So now the scientists behind it say that it was intentionally demolished. It didn't come down because debris from the airplanes went through the building and a few blocks over and hit just one particular building where the CIA, multiple insurance companies, the Department of Defense had offices. Just bad luck, I guess. Again, right, Isaiah? So
Yep.
again, let's just take it for one day. Let's just clear our minds of what we think we know and say, wait a minute, Building 7 was intentionally demolished. Then the question would be, why? And that's where he's going from here. Now, remember, Larry Silverstein is the one who made off with all of the money because he bought the World Trade Centers, which were in disrepair because of asbestos. And people thought, well, what are we going to do here? You know, they got to get this asbestos out of here. It's cost more to get the asbestos out than it would be to demolish the World Trade Centers and start from scratch.
Yeah.
That's how much asbestos was in it. Okay. And my uncle worked in asbestos, so I happen to know that's what his job was. Remember the guy? I don't know if you know it. I used to play him on the radio station. He's the guy that does the karaoke all the time. So he worked in asbestos for years. And he said, you know, they had to reconfigure all of these buildings because you can't have asbestos in your buildings anymore. Okay. So, and the World Trade Centers were filled with asbestos. Continue on.
In July 2001, 6 weeks before 9/11, he leased the entire World Trade Center complex for a $13 million down payment. $13 million for a 10 million square foot property in Lower Manhattan? It's kind of like buying a Ferrari for the price of a Happy Meal. But here's the catch. The WTC was a financial black hole. Why? Well, remember, it was built in the 70s. It had a lot of asbestos in it. Like, a lot. As in, the estimated cost of removing said asbestos was projected to be a minimum of $1 billion. A lot. This asbestos had to be removed by the end of the year, which sort of made the property a bit of a money pit, to put it lightly, until, you know, that wasn't really a concern anymore. Furthermore, right before 9/11, Larry took out insurance policies on the WTC worth $3.55 billion, specifically covering terrorist attacks. When the towers and WTC-7 go down, Larry's lawyers pull a galaxy brain move and argue that each plane was a separate event. The insurers cried foul, but after a legal battle, Larry walked away with $4.55 billion. That is a 34,000% return on his $13 million in under 2 years. Fun fact, Larry's payout included $861 million just for WTC-7 alone, despite it being just a fraction of the complex's size. Someone hit the jackpot at the Tragedy Casino. Oh, but wait, there's more. Silverstein had extensive ties to the Carlyle Group, a private equity firm that's, really evil. We'll get to them shortly. So, WTC-7 had what could be conservatively described as an interesting tenant list, which we will now go through. First off, the Secret Service. Okay. Next, the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, i.e. the people who investigate stock market shenanigans. They're going to be important as this goes on, which you may have guessed by the number of strings. La CIA, the company, the United States Central Intelligence Agency. Presumably, you are familiar. This was their New York field office. The New York City Office of Emergency Management. Well, at least they were close by. Everyone's favorite place to get a letter from, the IRS. The Department of Defense, you know, from war. The NAIC, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. Federal Home Loan Bank. The Standard Chartered Bank. American Express. Provident Bank, now known as PNC. Sorry, there's a bit of a lull in the middle, but back to the good stuff. ITT Hartford, also known as Hartford Insurance. This is one of the companies with whom Larry Silverstein took out a multi-billion-dollar terrorism insurance policy on the WTC complex. Finally, the anchor tenant, occupying more than half the building, Evil Investment Bank Hall of Famer, basis for Michael Lewis's excellent book Liar's Poker, Solomon Brothers. To rewind briefly back to the SEC, at the time of the collapse, they had a whole lot of spicy stuff in the office. Investigation files into Citigroup's cooked books, Enron's Ponzi scheme, as well as the big one, all the records of the massive short selling of airline stocks right before 9/11. Oh, did you not know about that? Yeah, in the 3 days leading up to 9/11, a statistically extremely anomalous number of airline industry shorts were placed. Like hundreds of millions of dollars of shorts. on American and United Airlines. The exact ones hit. Those shorts netted billions. But after WTC7's collapse, 90% of the SEC's files exploded, so we'll never know who cashed out. Convenient. Back to Salomon Brothers. They merged with Travelers, one of the other companies with whom the WTC complex was insured in July, to form Citigroup in '98. Speaking of Citigroup, let's take a look at a different group to whom they were closely tied. Let's talk Carlyle Group.
Bush.
Carlyle is a private equity titan with investments in defense, aerospace, and oil. You know, the stuff that booms after a forever war kicks off. One of their top dogs, David Rubenstein, was good friends with Larry Silverstein. Like, let's split a bottle of 82 Chateau Lafite and swap secrets. Good friends. But that's burying the lead on the real story, which is that Carlyle had extensive business ties to the Bin Laden family. The Bin Ladens? Yes. He was a Nepo baby? Carlyle's roster reads like a deep state yearbook. Former President George H.W. Bush was a senior advisor. Former CIA Director Frank Carlucci was a board member. When 9/11 triggered a global war and defense stocks skyrocketed, Carlyle's portfolio got fat. Now, their ties to Silverstein and the Bin Ladens don't really necessarily prove anything on their own yet, but this web is stickier than a casting couch, and I have a feeling that we'll be seeing these guys again. As Carlyle's investments thrived post 9/11, while Larry rebuilt the World Trade Center complex with his billions, the Carlyle Group was playing 6 degrees of Bin Laden while cashing war profiteering checks. So there's plenty of shady connections throughout this. Carlyle Group is connected to the Department of Defense, World Trade Center 7 tenant, via, amongst other things, the Bradley contract of their subsidiary, United Defense LP. The Carlyle Group is connected to Saudi Arabia via managing the money of the Bin Laden family. Carlyle Group is connected to Larry Silverstein via his close and long-standing relationship with David Rubenstein. Travelers Group was one of the 22 companies that insured the WTC complex. In the late 90s, they acquired Salomon Brothers, the anchor tenant of WTC7. Speaking of those 22 companies, it's hard to find a list of what these are, so here you go. This is pulled from, financial records.
That's good, Isaiah.
Salomon Brothers wound up having their files relating to the WorldCom scandal destroyed.
I'll do a report on it later. But it is fascinating. This is information that I did not know. That's maybe it's fascinating to me and not everybody else. I'm fascinated to look through that and begin to understand it because I remember Jesse the Body Ventura. I was living in Minneapolis when he was running for governor. Okay. So when he went on the Howard Stern show back in the day, and he said, Howard, I'm in demolition. I'm a Navy SEAL. I did demolition for a living. That I'm an expert in demolition, and I'm positive behind any shadow of a doubt that these buildings did not come down the way the commission is telling us. It is not possible for this to happen the way it did. I'm an expert in it. And they went back and forth because including myself, nobody at the time understood that our government isn't working on our behalf. We just can't, our brains can't rationalize it. And again, that is why I continue to remind people, just remember COVID. Remember COVID, and remember who told you COVID was a con before you ever heard of it. It was me. Happened to be in China when it started. I know what was going on. COVID was a con job, an organized con job to consolidate power, put mask on your kids, demoralize our society, and show people where the power really was with the propagandized nature of our people. Once you get society to turn against you, because they've been misinformed and they believe the experts, Milgram experiment from Yale, if you remember, then all of a sudden you have a zombie-like society that is living outside the bounds of reality, trying to destroy the people that are still thinking straight. And that's exactly what happened. And many that are listening today fell right into it. Don't kid yourselves. You fell right into it. Many of you, conservatives, independents, and liberals, all fell right into it. And that's a fact. That's just what happened. So I want people to pay attention to that. We're going to bring Jake Jackson back on at 11 o'clock. We'll talk about how radical Islam is now the center focus of the radical Zionists because we need that division. We're getting into the midterms, and you must be scared to death of radical Islam, despite the fact that your conscious mind knows that radical Islam was allowed by the Zionists who run our country. If we were worried about radical Islam infiltrating our country, wouldn't we control our borders? Wouldn't that be a simple fix, Isaiah? Wouldn't you make it?
Probably have more flock cameras on the borders too.
I know no flock cameras on the borders. They're in my neighborhood watching me, but they're not along the border. Okay, we have to understand what is happening. We must begin to say, Rob's right. That doesn't really make any sense. I don't understand. I mean, if I'm trying to get, if we have 40 million people here illegally and they're killing our social safety net and and we have crime-ridden streets and we have this back and forth between Christians and radical Islam, wouldn't we just say, you know what, you can't be here and make it impossible to work, and then everybody would have to leave? That's all you have to do. You don't need ICE. I just want to remind my people on the right, you don't need ICE. Barack Obama had it right, although he didn't do it. He was just talking out loud. You don't need ICE. You just have to make it impossible for people here illegally to make a living, and then everybody goes away. They disappear like a magic trick. You don't have
Then they
to
go to
have,
another country where they can make a living.
right. You don't have to take 1,500 people and say you're going to get rid of 40 million because everybody knows that's impossible, but it looks good on TV because you go, wait a minute, look at these crazy, and it's good for television. But the reality of it is very simple fix. It's always very simple, like in business, right? Keep it simple, stupid. It's
Right.
very simple just to say, here's the new rules. If you're here illegally and you are harboring somebody that is here illegally, if you're giving them jobs and they're here illegally, you're going to get 10 years in prison. And then all of a sudden, the people that are here illegally can't make a living. They can't work. There's no reason to be here. They're going to stick out like sore thumbs and they go bye-bye. That's exactly what Barack Obama said he was going to do when he was running for president in 2008. Now, he didn't do it. He probably had no intention of doing it, but that's what he said he was going to do because that made sense. All right, let's bring in Sheriff Bonham. Now, again, Sheriff Bonham
You
is.
want to do any advertisers?
Let's do Sheriff Bonham first. We'll
Okay.
do that for the first hour.
All right.
He's a very busy man. I don't want to make him late, and he's a good friend, so I try to keep him on time. Sheriff Bonham, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Good morning, sir. Been interesting conversation. I've been listening to you this morning, and man, from one side to the other, I appreciate Isaiah's appreciation of the biblical. I didn't know if you knew this, but I am also an ordained minister and deliver the gospel on the weekends.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
that's probably why I like you so much.
So I would ask. I just want to throw at you real quick before we get started. 2 Thessalonians, chapter 2, verse 11 and 12. You could probably start at 9, Isaiah, and read down there and tell me if that's not describing where we're at today about the delusion and the wicked. I mean, it's not hiding anymore. It is right out in our face. So
I'm
2 Thessalonians, what was the chapter?
Second chapter of 2 Thessalonians. You can start at verse 9, go down through 12. But it talks about, how Satan is having his day, and then then there will be, God will send a great delusion.
Yes.
But we see the deception, and Rob, I really appreciate you. I've listened off and on, as you know, for quite some time, become good friends. I called you a few weeks ago to ask your opinion on some of the legislation that was going through, which I did get the answer, so it was all good. But, there are so many
I don't know the answer. That's why I realize, to be honest with you, Sheriff, because you did send me that, and I'm like, I don't really understand what it is. But I'm one of these people that I shouldn't do this because I advise my audience not to do it. But when I have a personal relationship with somebody that I know is good-hearted, that I know is trying to do the right thing, and they're an expert in a field that I'm not. Now, I got to know the person. I won't take it from a television personality, but I've gotten to know you over the years. And I just think that you're on the side of righteousness. I just believe in you. So I'm curious what you're thinking, because what you believe should happen with these constitutional sheriff laws, that's where I'm going to go. I just believe that you understand it better than I do. That's why I really didn't have an answer for you, to be honest with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. There is obviously we're going to get questions, and I welcome those questions. That's what we should be open to an open idea debate. What happens, though, a lot of times it becomes critical and then accusatory, which is not the place that I would like to go. If we were hoping an open, honest debate, I'm all there. What I have seen is that we are continually seeing consolidation of power at a higher level than the local level. And I'm, of course, my stance on where I stand politically, but there was a senator once said all politics are local.
Right.
And I agree with that, and it should be. And this is why the importance of the sheriff to be remained independent of all the other offices, and by setting the sheriff's position, if you will, in the Constitution of the state of Missouri so that our legislators can't come in and start changing and monkeying with the duties and the office of sheriff, I think is really, really important. And the more I dive into this and talking from sheriffs across the United States, talking to the Tacoma sheriff up in Tacoma, they're trying to take away their sheriff and the power of the sheriff and consolidate that power more into a regional or state. We've seen this in Illinois under the, back in 22 when the governor was trying to seize firearms. And the sheriff stood up and said, "We're not doing that." And he said, "Well, we're going to remove you." And that quite honestly could happen in the state of Missouri if we're not careful. By setting us independently and we're reportable to the people. I mean, we're seeing a great outcrying right now, and local sheriffs are having to respond to the people that they serve. And I think it's a great example. But if you take that away from the folks, a lot of it would, I think I shared with you yesterday, was in a meeting and they were fearful of the consolidation of power at a local level for a sheriff. But the alternative, do you want the governor to have that power?
Right.
And because if the governor has that power, he can remove sheriffs at will. The governor then can use the state in any way that he would like. The thing is that the other question was brought up about, us being able to just arrest anybody because of the way it is written. That is not true. Absolutely untrue, because we are still under the U.S. Constitution and the Missouri State Constitution and upholding the laws. For just nilly-willy making arrests, that has never happened. It's already in state statute. The wording that's in this document is taken out of the state RSMOs and put into constitutional language, which then codifies the duties of the sheriff. And the reporter means structure, and I think you agree, it's the people. I'm going to listen to my people here, what they're telling me and what the problems are. I mean, right now, my number one complaint in this county is speeders on county roads, which great problem to have. I am not complaining, but that is our number one complaint. Other sheriffs don't have that. They have other problems that are going on within their county. And I'm going to be responsive to my citizens that are asking, "Hey, you're our elected official. We want you to do something." So do you want us to be the ombudsman for between the state and our local? I think the answer to me is absolutely yes. I'm not going to be sheriff forever. I know you're going to be shocked by this, but there's somewhere down the road that I'm going to retire. And there will be someone sitting in this chair right here that will be taking over. And I need them to be able to function the way it was designed in the first place and be answerable to the people and making sure that the rights of the citizens are not violated.
I couldn't agree more. And that's the way I see it. We've had this kind of ideological conversation many times is, in St. Charles County, St. Louis County, they have county executives and the sheriffs are, to me, they're just, I don't even know what their role is. I can't quite understand it. Sheriff Lewis when I was on the radio station, and I didn't really understand the role of sheriff because I always thought constitutional sheriffs, that was their territory. They had to live by the Constitution. If the politicians got in their way, it didn't matter because the sheriff was the boss. And then all of a sudden, the sheriff started working for the county executives, and now you got politics running everything. And from an ideological bent, so long as we have real elections and we can elect our sheriffs, I want law enforcement to be in charge because I want my constitutional rights protected. And I don't want politicians coming in and playing games with the Constitution for political expediency. That's the way I saw it ideologically. Do you agree with me, or am I missing something?
No, I agree with you. And, there's certain issues that we're looking at today, and I think I've sent you some information that, especially and you brought it up briefly, these flock cameras, that this is technology that has outrun the legal system. And as I further dive into this, I see a lot of problematic things. Now, from a law enforcement point of view, yes, it is a wonderful tool.
Absolutely.
It can be misused, and I think that the process is showing that people are getting caught misusing it, so the system is working, and I think they're robusting that up. But the bigger problem I have, and I think you probably have as well, is that we have a private company holding this data. And do we trust them to do what they said they're going to do? You can hold me accountable if you can sunshine request, FOIA request us, and we give it up unless there's some active investigation. But a private company is a little bit different. And I think that there's something that has to be put in stop or they have to be removed. I'm just at that point.
Yeah.
And I've had done deep dive study into this, and I've had to really search and try to have an honest debate, not rhetoric, but let's look at the facts other than, my privacy being violated because when we're in the public, we don't have any reasonable expectation of privacy, according to the Supreme Court. That is a fact. But this goes further than that, and I would agree with that. So how do we get in the way? Well, under this proposed, I'll be the chief law enforcement officer recognized under the Constitution. Will we have a voice there? I would like to think so. I like to believe so. I'm not an attorney, but I believe that it will come into play.
Yeah, these are some of the conversations I've had, Sheriff, with many of my friends, because they'll say, this is security. This sheriff wants the flock cameras. I think there was just somebody that went out on social media recently, I forget what county, and he was advocating for flock cameras. And I said, now listen, if I'm a police officer, I want flock cameras. I do. Why would I want? It helps me solve crimes. As a private citizen that says this is going through a private company, that makes me very nervous, because if you have private companies, just like Meta and Google and all of these operations, they can share your information. They can sell you to the highest bidder. So if this information tracks me wherever I go and then wants to sell that information to the highest bidder, as a private citizen, I don't want that anymore. Not having privacy in the public square is one thing. Tracking me everywhere that I go and and have that information available to sell or to do whatever you want with it, that's where they lose me. I got to ask.
And I'd also like to introduce you to an Israeli company called Toka, Toka, Sheriff Bonham. They can alter live video footage. So any surveillance camera, they're able to alter the live footage, change it retroactively as well. So anything you're looking at live or that's recorded, they can alter the footage. And so this is pretty crazy. A lady did an article on all the surveillance companies and how they're all connected, and that's one of them. So that's my concern also, is that not only is it, they're capturing it, but then there's companies that can alter the images.
I'm sure that you've both probably watched the movie Enemy of the State.
Yep.
Yes.
And boy, that's not tinfoil hat stuff. That is legitimately is happening. And that movie was put out 10 years ago, 12 years ago?
At least, yeah.
I mean, so unfortunately, we are in that state. The phone is another aspect. Yep, we sign up to carry our phone, but I'm telling you, there is so much data that is trapped that we have no idea private companies or how they're using that data. Was it your show that I heard about Walmart that has a patent on a shopping cart that will take your...
Yep, that was the show. We reported on that. Isn't that incredible? So it's a shopping cart that monitors your buying habits. So it monitors how long you sit in the pasta aisle. And it can change the price based on whether you can afford it or not. So it profiles the customer. It says, okay, these green beans are going to be $1.99 for Joe Blow over here, because Joe Blow can't afford, and we can still make money. But there'll be $2.16 for Robb, who has the money and he can afford it, and they can change the prices. They'll have digital price tags, and the cart is what is surveilling everything. Fascinating when you see
taking your heartbeat too.
Yeah, your heartbeat. It tells you whether you're anxiety because you can't afford whatever you'd like to buy, that kind of thing. It's amazing, and they can sell it. They can sell that information so that a profile begins to exist in multiple different industries.
May I also tell you? You said something earlier in the show, because I don't know, college stalking, I guess. Listening to but you had made mention about there's no difference between either party. And I totally agree, which goes to another question. Who do you trust?
Right.
And so the paradigm that you're being placed before you, the narrative that is being placed before you, I take that with a grain of salt, but I also have to use, for me, I won't tell anybody else what to do, but I use my word of God. And I look at that and where we're at in relevance. We do know that these things are going to come to pass. There's no ifs, ands, and buts, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be the watchman on the wall, and we shouldn't be doing our part. And I'm trying to do my part. I'm just a small rural county, but I'm trying to do my part at the state level. Sometimes I get in my own jurisdiction here that folks are concerned about myself interacting in the politics, but it's honestly for my citizens to make sure. I love Nick Shore, and I know there's some difference there. And
Yeah.
Nick is,
I'm friends with Nick. I like Nick.
But Nick is what he believes he's going to say, and I don't see the politics, but I do see the man. And there's others, but there's a few that they play both sides of the fence.
Yep.
And I see it very, very well, and it's in light up there. But if we're not going to stand up, if my constituents can't go stand up because they've got jobs, or they're busy, or they just don't care, somebody's got to stand up for the people. And if I'm not going to do it, who's it going to be, Rob?
Right.
And,
I agree.
And this is part going back to the constitutional sheriff. You have to have a sheriff, and if your sheriff's not working out for you, then you need to reelect a new one. The other thing was brought up in the meeting the other night was about recall elections, that there's not a mechanism in there. But quite honestly, in Missouri, we do not have that option of doing a recall petition. There is no such thing. You can do that at a local level under city charters or county charters, but at a state and county, third-class county, there is no mechanism currently available. There's impeachment and also the pro warranto, which the Attorney General has made it very clear just recently in St. Louis by removing the sheriff down there. But that's not the first time. And so I don't have a problem. There's nobody that hates a bad cop more than a good cop. And that's the truth, because it makes it rough for all of us. It makes it hard for every one of us that are trying to do the job correctly. We're human beings, mistakes made, and I think that when we acknowledge those mistakes, the public is much more readily to forgive versus trying to hide it. And I'm a full proponent of that.
I've never had, that I can think of, a run-in with a bad cop. I've never had one myself. My entire life, anytime I've had any kind of back and forth with police officers for whatever, reading speeding tickets, what have you, I've never had a bad experience. But I come from it from the same angle you just said. One bad cop, and then all of a sudden, if you have that experience, now you're tainted and you think all cops are this way. It's the same thing with religions. It's the same way with the color of your skin. It's the same way with your business profession. People get their thoughts around one particular aspect because of one person and paint everybody with that broad brush. And I think that's just something that's starting to happen in America way too often. It scares me a little bit because I see it all over the place. And when you mentioned like Nick Schroer, right? Because I've got one of my advertisers had a run-in with Nick, and they're not friendly with each other. I don't agree with everything that Nick says or everything that he does, but I worked with Nick. I mean, I worked with him. I can sit across from him. I know that he's a father, and I think that Nick is a complex character, quite honestly, in the game of politics. But it's like everything else. If you don't like Nick, does that mean you hate the Republican Party? I don't hate people within the Republican Party or even dislike. Most of them I like, quite honestly, when I meet them. I just know that. Are you friends with Bryant Wolfen? He was at my opening. Have you ever spoke to Bryant?
I don't believe I have.
I got to get you hooked up with him. I think he's somebody you would really enjoy. And he did an interview with Jake Jackson, who's coming on at 11. And he said, Rob, he goes, he said, he was talking to Jake, but I played it on my show. He said, we don't have the ability to work for the people. We don't really represent you. It's just the way it is. And I always go back to my original finding when I understand, or when the audience begins to understand, that the power structure of the Missouri government really relies upon the Speaker of the House, the Senate Floor Leader, the Senate Pro Tem, and the governor. Everybody else is almost irrelevant. They are. And he said that in that conversation. He said, Rob, we just, on the fringes, we can do certain things for you. He goes, but this is a top-down government.
Yeah.
You can't get any legislation past the House of Representatives unless John Patterson likes it in the future. They've already picked the next Speaker of the House, which is Alex Riley. If it goes to the Senate and Cindy O'Loughlin doesn't like it, it's not going anywhere. And then it's got to be signed by the governor. Yeah. Mike Lee, who is a senator from Utah, called it the firm. He said, we're rendered useless here in Washington, D.C. He goes, because it's really the floor leader, the House Speaker, and the president. They make all the decisions. We're just kind of like symbolic. And I think there's some truth to that.
You got to interview several great candidates in this primary. And there's a couple that I know and I've got to meet on the trail, if you will. And one of them is a young man down in southern Missouri, Ryan, first name.
Ryan Hagedorn.
Yes, sir. I was very impressed. I got to hear him speak. And we talked afterward offline. And one of the things, he has a lot of great ideas. I said, but you got to understand, when you get to the Capitol, you're going to be at the very low end of this. And if you make the wrong person mad, you will totally be ineffective. And this is how they suck them in. This is why I don't have any desire to run for the state house. None. Zero, zip. Because of the way the mechanism works, the machine works up there, and they mute the ones that really have great ideas and have a passion for the citizens of this state. And I advised them that I think you're great. I think there's a lot of good things that you can do, but don't get sucked in by the vortex. And I don't know if you knew what I meant by that. I think you probably do, but there is absolutely that kind of thing. And this is the other thing, going back to constitutional sheriff, it puts us independent of all of that crap.
Yes.
Pardon the language, but it puts us independent of that because we don't have to worry that they're going to try to pull some shenanigans, across the state. Or try to play gotcha with you because you're not conforming. I've seen this at the national level. If you don't go along, then we're going to attack you and we're going to belittle you. And it doesn't matter which party. We'll call you a racist or we'll call you this or that, and we'll belittle you to ineffectively silence your voice. And I've seen it over and over.
Yeah, they'll destroy you. How do we help you? This legislation is, I know it made it through the House, right? Because I was up in Jefferson City when it made it through the House. Where is your legislation at? What is the number? How do we track it? And what can we do to support you?
So it's Amendment 8. And, the People's Lobby have been very gracious. We appreciate that. And we hope that we can. This is as grassroots as it gets. The sheriffs themselves are going to be out doing what they can. And, like myself, I've been all over on my nickel. To make sure that, the word gets out, the truth gets out. Here I am, 6'2", have at it. Let's have a respectful conversation. And I'm willing to sit down and listen because I work for the people. And I wake myself up every morning at 4:30 in the morning, every morning I come in the office, and I remember who I work for. Someday I'm going to retire, and I'm going to be out and be a citizen. And I want people that are going to be out there to protect me and my rights, my grandkids' rights, my great-grandkids' rights as we go forward. I hope that they have that opportunity. And by putting this office in independent as it's designed to be, where it doesn't have to listen to all the chatter of whatever DC or even the state, and obey the Constitution, I think we'll be in much better shape. Versus then, I have always said Second Amendment rights, I'm always for Second Amendment rights, but I'm more importantly for your First Amendment rights. And I am more fearful of them trying to take our First Amendment right than our Second Amendment.
Me too. That's the one I worry about the most. I was going to ask you on September 18th, if you're free, that's our next People's Lobby Missouri meeting. I'll be putting the venue together today. I'm just waiting back to get a confirmation from this venue that I'm trying to purchase. I'd love to have you there because, constitutional sheriff laws are something that People's Lobby Missouri focuses on. And if you want to come and just give a 10-minute, hey, this is why we're doing it, and speak to everybody, we're going to live stream much of it so we get it out to a bigger audience. You're more than welcome to come and speak at that if you'd like to. That's on September 18th, and I'll reach out to you prior.
Yeah, please do, because I know my schedule is kind of filled up, but
no worries.
I'd be glad to do it. My right real quick is please support We the People as well. I think that you guys have done wonderful for us. We appreciate support your sheriff. If you have a question, call your sheriff. And if he's too busy, leave a message, send him an email, get a response. And I'm sure that they'll be able to fill you in. If you have any questions, I'm available too. I'm busy, but I try to make time for anybody that calls. At very least, I'll try to call you back and make sure that happens.
I think you first of all, you're a class act. You've always communicated very well with me. I'm one of those guys that I pay attention to how people communicate with me, whether they're just being honest with me, whether I can have a disagreement and still like each other afterwards. And you've always been that kind of guy. So I'm rooting for you big time. I don't want you to retire. I hope you work there till
I think there's a few others that are kind of pulling that way with you as well, but
no doubt about it. A8 is a yes. So it's on Amendment 8. We would vote yes on that.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll have you back on before the vote takes shape. We'll have you on as many times as you'd like because I want to make sure that we, if you want it, then I think that's probably a good thing because I've gotten to know you and I know you, your heart's in the right place. I like sheriffs that understand the Constitution, care about it, and want to have the authority. A lot of people just want to deflect it because they don't want the pressure of being the sheriff and they'd rather turn it off into the politics. I like people that say, let it flow with me because I know I'm trying to do the right thing, and that's why I like you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Again, I thank you because I listened to you. This flock camera thing, I have definitely come around differently to seeing because I've done my research and did my homework. But that's what I think a sheriff should do for their independent. What is right for your jurisdiction, and what is constitutionally correct, and what is morally correct.
Right.
Okay, and just because it's legal doesn't mean that it's right.
Right.
So, what is morally? And we got to get our compass right. You have to put the sheriff hat on, but then you also have to put what is right hats on. So be patient. I think that many of them are learning just as I have, and I'm learning on a regular daily basis.
Amen. Right on. Sheriff Bonham, I'm glad you're a friend of the show, my friend. You're on anytime you want. Just get in touch with me.
Thank you.
We'll push for A8. We're going to be talking with Act for Missouri here in just a little bit. We'll get that
Did
on.
you look up that scripture yet?
Isaiah, do you have it?
Oh, yeah. I got it right here. I was wondering if we wanted to.
We got time. No, we got time. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and share this here because I had to.
This is the reason he's on the show, by the way, Sheriff, because he keeps me in line. He knows that I get out of line. And
so it's very good. It says that the coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan with all power and false signs and wonders, with all wicked and deception for those who are perishing because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. Therefore, this is a great verse, by the way. Therefore, God sends them a strong delusion so that they may believe what is false, in order that all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness.
Ooh, I like that one, Isaiah. Keep that one for us. We'll keep that as a part of the show. I love it. That fits right in with what we're talking about.
Have you ever been to Seattle?
I have many times.
Yeah.
It's incredible. You know,
I used to work for a company headquartered out of Seattle, Sheriff Bonham.
Well, there you go. I'll say no more.
I used to sell, Sheriff. I tell the story all the time. You may have heard me say it before. So Nordstrom's corporate offices, and I was in the shoe business for 30-something years. And I went to Seattle, Washington once a month because Nordstrom's was a big customer of ours. One of the last times I was there before they had the Chaz and the Chad where they took over the city, I was coming out of a Nordstrom's meeting, and as you make a left out of the Nordstrom's, I think it was the 777 building, you make a left out of it, and you walked up the street, there was a cheesecake factory there. As I'm walking up the street, getting ready to eat, there is something in front of the door, and I can't really recognize what it is from a distance. As I get closer, I realize it's a homeless person laying on the street. As I get closer, this person is filthy. I mean, matted hair, just dirt and grime all over his body, completely naked. I'm completely naked right in front of the door. I had to step over him to get inside of the Cheesecake Factory. And I thought, well, that's kind of crazy. And I go in, I eat, I'm got to catch a plane right afterwards. I'm in there for 45 minutes to an hour or something. I come back out and the person was still there. And I remember thinking to myself, what kind of society are we living in where a naked, drug-addicted, filthy person can sit in front of a business and nobody does anything about it for an hour? He could have been there for 10 hours for all I know.
Now look at that scripture again.
That's what I'm saying. It's the craziest thing in the world. It just makes you wonder where society is heading when, if you've ever been out to Skid Row in Los Angeles, that's something that you cannot describe to people. You can't understand what's going on there. It's really like you go into a sci-fi movie because these people are so drug addicted and they're just out of their minds. They're literally like walking zombies and they're forever. There's so many of them, you just can't wrap your brain around it. Buddy of mine said, Rob, you got to go see this with me. I was working out in LA and he goes, let's go down there. He goes, have you seen it? I said, I've seen it on TV. He goes, no, you haven't seen it. So he gets me in the car. We go down there. And if you haven't seen it, it's really not describable. It's something that you would see in a movie and you wouldn't believe it, only it's 10 times worse than any movie that you've ever seen. The amount of disgusting, I mean, they're going to the bathroom on the streets, thousands of people, needles everywhere. You can't really walk through it. You have to walk in the streets and look at it off to the sides in order to get a sense of it. But it is amazing that it's happening in a major city and there's nobody coming to save these people. It's been that way for at least 15 years now. It just never changes. It's incredible. So
it's crazy.
Anyway,
man, I really appreciate it. I will come back anytime you would like. If there's some unforeseen development, of course, I will, be in touch. But on the other side note, I definitely would like to talk and visit with you offline and maybe have a soda with you or something.
You're on. Sheriff Bonham, you're my man.
Thank you, sir.
Have a great day, sir. Great to see your face. We'll be in touch.
God bless.
You got it. All right, Isaiah. He's a good dude. I really, really, really get a good feeling about him. Don't you? Just when he talks.
Any sheriff that does the work and researches flock camera is a good sheriff in my book because you wouldn't believe how many don't do that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because somebody had said, Rob, you love Sheriff Bonham so much, he's for the flock cameras. And I said, well, he's a law enforcement guy. I would think law enforcement people would
Yeah.
want flock cameras. That's not where I'm coming from. If he is
Did you ever say no to something that made your job easier?
that's what I was saying. And then he looked at it, as he said, he looked at it and he said, I hear you guys talking about it. And I look at it and I say, is this constitutional? Because if he wants to be a constitutional sheriff, what he's really looking at is the Constitution. Supreme Court of the United States, as he said you have no right to privacy in public.
Yes.
And I understand that, right? Because you have cameras all over the buildings. They go out into
you have a traffic camera on the highway.
Cameras everywhere. Exactly. But part two of that is what the flock cameras have the ability to do is to track you. Now that gets a little bit different. I don't know that the Supreme Court of the United States, in fact, they just voted against it, by the way. Now that I remember, out in DC, they do not have the ability to track you wherever you go, or they do not have the constitutional authority to do that. And that's where I'm coming from. I don't mind if I'm walking down the street and you have cameras pointed at me for public safety. I don't have any problem with that. I have a problem that if you're tracking my license plate number and then I go into another town and you're tracking my number, and then the next guy tracks my number and then you're putting it into a database and you can sell that to somebody and say, here's Robb's travel. Or you might have a corrupt person who says, here's Robb's travel, and he's a political person, so we can take care of him because we know we.
Yeah, I personally don't have a problem with cameras per se, that are just recording. It's the functionalities of the layers of AI and machine learning that people just naturally don't understand anyways. That they're not understanding, that are taking part inside these databases and these systems that they're using. It's not the camera that's necessarily the most powerful. It's that the camera captures the information and then ingests it into a database that allows you to build a hit list so that anytime that person drives in front of a flock camera, you get a notification, right? It's the camera is powerful, but that system is more powerful. And then we talked about Palantir, right? That's something that they're talking about, is integrating flock system with Palantir, which would make it even more powerful.
And then you have to hope that you have a benevolent government, which apparently we do not. It appears to me we do not have a benevolent government. So if you don't have a benevolent government, you don't want them tracking you.
What do you mean the Republicans are in charge, Rob?
Let's just some advertising before Act 4 Missouri comes in. Let's start with People's Lobby Mo, peopleslobbymo.com. Again, September 18th. Mark this on your calendar. Isaiah, can you put my email up? Because I really want this to be fans of the show. So if you're somebody who listens every day, we're going to make sure that you get in. It's going to be free. If you are a friend, family, if you're a co-worker of ours, if you are, who else could be there? Advertisers with us. If you're involved with our show, this is for you. This is why we do these things. We want this to be for you. It's going to be put on by People's Lobby Missouri. We'll talk about all the things that we're concerned about. We're concerned about elections, constitutional sheriff, accountability in government, and we want things to change so that the people of Missouri begin to take control of their government, not the other way around. That's all we're looking to do. And we would think that the politicians would be on board with that, right, Isaiah?
Mm-hmm.
If you say you want the people of Missouri to get involved with their government and we want to become one with you, we want to become intertwined because it is the people that are supposed to guide the government. It is not the government guiding the people all the time, because we have found out that that doesn't work so well. So People's Lobby Missouri says, let's organize. Let's pull our money together. You'll give money for everything, Isaiah. People will throw money away like there's no tomorrow. But we're looking for $5 to $10 a month. If we have 10,000 people, give $5,000 a month, we can advertise and change the entire complexion of the state of Missouri so that you're really excited to live in Missouri, so that small businesses can begin to thrive, so that our streets are much safer, so that there is accountability when one party or the other, or one person within a party or the other, begins to infringe upon your constitutional rights. We can call them out on it. You have to have that. Right now, you have a lobby system in the state of Missouri. Whether you love your life in Missouri or you don't love your life in Missouri, you do not have the power over your government that you think that you do. You just don't have it. And I say we get it back. peopleslobbymo.com. Go there, sign up. Or you can go to the Robb Show host at gmail.com. Can you put that up for just a second, Isaiah? Do we have that?
Yeah, 1 second.
Okay. If you can pop that up there. So this is where you get a hold of us. So if you say, Rob, I'm going to be there on September the 18th, it's going to be in St. Charles County. It looks like we'll announce the venue over the course of the next couple days. Come there, meet like-minded people. Join our family. We'll have advertisers there. We'll have fans of the show there. We'll have friends there. We'll have family there. And we'll begin to talk about how we fix this state. And then this key speaker, the person that's flying in from Colorado, is Phil Turney. If you have not heard the story of Phil Turney, I suggest that you pay attention to somebody that watched their ship get bombed for what seemed like forever, he said, by Israel. And then what they told them to do afterwards was to shut their mouths and not say anything about it. And again, you ask, well, why would they do that? Why would there's so much integration now with our militaries and our intelligence agencies with the state of Israel? When you look into an 80-year-old man's eyes and he says that they bombed us intentionally, and I know that as a fact because I was on that ship and I watched how the whole thing took shape, it will change your mind as to what we're doing here in this country. I believe there's infiltration. I think there's infiltration into this country. I think people in positions of enormous power are not looking out for our best interest, and that becomes very scary over time. It's nothing to be scared about once you're aware, but what do you think? 99% of the country is not really aware of what's going on around here, Isaiah?
Oh,
Would you
yeah.
say that's probably the case?
Absolutely.
Or even care anymore for whatever reason. That's even more bizarre. Okay.
Condition not to care.
And Kurt, you better come. He said, my mom, my son and I are coming. Right on, Kurt. Come on in. peopleslobbymo.com. Go to @theRobbShowHost@gmail.com. If you want tickets, just send me an email @theRobbShowHost@gmail.com. Send them directly to me. We'll make sure that you have tickets. I think we're going to have 150 or 200 tickets available. This is not going to be a huge event because we're going to live stream it. And to be honest with you, I don't want to spend a ton of money to do this. I want it to be intimate. We'll live stream it so that a broader audience can see it and hear the message. But ultimately, we're trying to save money at People's Lobby Missouri, not spend everything that we have, because ultimately we need to bring in donations in order to get the marketing campaign started. Fair enough?
Oh, yeah.
Did you find that at the Robb Show Host at Gmail?
Oh, I put up I have the contact page right now.
All right.
Yeah.
So I want to start getting that out there because I do want to make sure that people reach out directly to me for tickets, because what I don't want, Isaiah, is any nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
Because if Sheriff Bonham shows up and our security team shows up, we'll have everything covered quite nicely. So
Who's handling the marketing for this?
We'll put out flyers and stuff to all of it. I mean, that's how we're going to do it.
Well, I just mean someone should probably make like an event registration.
Yeah.
That'd be, that's probably how you probably don't want people just emailing you. You'd probably want to set up an event registration so you can.
I had them email me last time. It was simple.
Yeah, track all the information and
because I want to look at the names involved, which is what I did last time. So we had 315 people show up last time, and I wasn't expecting that many. I want to make sure that the people come and are there for the right reasons and not to start trouble. Because you do have, when you get into politics, you always have somebody who wants to start some trouble, and I don't feel like Sheriff Bonham. I don't want to be handcuffed and drug out of there. I want it to be a nice.
Good luck.
GraceHauling.com, GraceHauling.com, GraceHauling.com for all of your rubbish and trash needs. It's GraceHauling.com. Again, the reason when you drive around St. Charles County in Missouri and you see those trash trucks and those dumpsters and those cans everywhere with Grace Hauling signs, that's because people love doing business with Gary and Karen Schneider. Great people, big fans of what we're trying to get accomplished here. They do so much work for people around this St. Charles area. They're very generous, they're warm, they're wonderful, and they provide a great service in St. Charles County. GraceHauling.com, GraceHauling.com for commercial businesses, 2, 4, 6, and 8-yard dumpsters. If you're a residential customer, always think bulk pickup, trash pickup, recyclables, yard waste, you name it, they'll take care of you. GraceHauling.com. They've been around since 1998. They pride themselves on outstanding customer service and competitive pricing. And last but not least, I say to him, Gary, what do you want me to say about your business more than anything? And he said, Rob, I don't really know. But for the grace of God, I would not have such a great business. I said, Grace Hauling, grace of God, gotcha. That's where we'll stick to it. GraceHauling.com, GraceHauling.com, GraceHauling.com. And then we got Jones Air and Water.
Right.
He was wanting me to play dartball with him last night. I didn't see his message. I'm getting so many messages after my shows now. It's getting to be almost insane. I mean, I'm getting, 50, 60 messages sometimes in a day. And people are like, Rob, you didn't get back to me. I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I just
respond.
Yes, I do apologize. I got to figure out a better system. JonesWater.com, JonesWater.com, JonesWater.com. The first step to a healthy, happy home is clean air and clean water. That is a fact.
That's the fact, Jack! That's a fact, Jack!
You must have clean air and clean water in your home for your kids, for your grandparents. It doesn't really matter. Many of the illnesses that we all suffer from originate from breathing funky air inside of your home that gets into your sinuses, clogs up your lungs. You end up with these colds and flus, and you're just not comfortable. You're sluggish. You're tired. Well, you're breathing in funky air all day. You're inside. So you got nasty air. Clean up your air, clean up your water, get the dehumidifier systems, and you'll feel much better inside your home where you spend much of your life. Trust me on this one. JonesWater.com, JonesWater.com, 636-899-1040. You'll be the filter, or you'll buy the filter, JonesWater.com. If you want to do business with my good friend Everett Jones on the Missouri side, St. Charles County, Lincoln, Franklin, Warren, St. Louis, and Jefferson. If you go to the east side, the dark side, Madison, Monroe, Jersey, and St. Clair. JonesWater.com, JonesWater.com, 636-899-1040. And then Advanced Wellness MED, they put on that Afton Police with Shield Maidens of Missouri yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that was last night, wasn't it?
She sent me a text. She said, Rob, I appreciate it. She said, we had a barn, but she called it a barn burner. I love that. I haven't heard that in a while. A barn burner of an event. And I'm really happy to hear it, because I love when the community gets excited about people like Act 4 Missouri, people like Lisa and Stacy with Shield Maidens, because they're going to give you their opinion on what they see going on in government, so that instead of being reactionary and not really understanding what is going on, you can get right to the source, people that spend their time down there and understand the language in the bills, what the implications of the bills are, who's who, and they're just a wealth of knowledge. That was put on by our good friend, Dr. Helen Gelhot. Again, really quickly, Dr. Helen Gelhot is outside of the hospital administrations. She's a free, independent doctor. She gives terrific care to her patients, and she focuses on the things that kill you. Feel, think, look better, and live longer. Earliest cancer detection blood tests available. They specialize in techniques that reverse the symptoms of Alzheimer's and dementia. So again, if you have somebody in your life that you love where the mind is beginning to slip, make sure that you get a hold of Dr. Helen Gelhot at 314-576-0094, or always remember the website, advancedwellnessmed.com. Again, cancer testing, symptom reversal for Alzheimer's and dementia, and pre-screenings for heart attacks and strokes. I just had two friends lose their lives to heart attacks and strokes within the last couple of weeks, both in their 50s. Listen, take care of your business. Take care of your, if you have heart issues, get out to see Dr. Helen Gelhot. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Great lady. 314-576-0094. And then last one before we bring in Act 4 Missouri. Oh, we got 2 minutes. I see them warming up in the bullpen, though, getting their arms loose. RocketCareers.com, ROCKIT careers.com. In fact, Mitch, if you're listening, I'd like to get Brian on the show. I've not had Brian on the show. If Brian doesn't have stage fright, I don't know how Brian is, but if Brian wants to come on and talk about RocketCareers.com, we need to get him on relatively soon. We'll have Mitch on as a guest for the show because he's kind of involved in the same things that we are. But again, RocketCareers.com. These are two friends of mine. Mitch has been a friend of mine since high school. I wouldn't put anything but good people in front of you. That's just the way I look at it. Mitch is a great guy. I've known him forever. He's been supportive of my show from the very beginning. And what they offer to both employees and employers is a network that they have garnered from coast to coast. So if you're a employer and you just can't find the proper talent for your business, you can't find the right kind of worker, human resources just can't quite get the job done, or maybe you can't afford a human resources department, just look up rocketcareers.com and they'll take care of you. They'll bring the right candidates to your business so you can have great people within your environment, and obviously business will get better immediately. ROCKIT careers.com, rocketcareers.com. You can reach them at 636-778-2419. And last but not least, if you're out of work, if you hate your job, if you just can't take it anymore, and you know who you are, there's somebody right now, I guarantee you, there's somebody listening to this show right now who is doing something that they hate to do, but they have to do it in order to feed the family. Look at rocketcareers.com and consider launching a new career, something that you might love to do that will provide a livelihood for you, Isaiah. Does that make sense? Rocketcareers.com, 636-778-2419. One more time, rocketcareers.com, ROCKIT careers.com, 636-778-2419. And then let me get one more in, and then we'll bring them out. Valvoline Express Care. This is my good friend, Tony Clark. Easy. If some of these other businesses, they're kind of sporadic, you might need them here and there. You're always going to need an oil change. And the one thing you can do to help us out is get your oil changed with Tony Clark. I just love this family. They've been great. I was talking to Mrs. Clark the other day. What a great lady. Valvoline Express Care. Valvoline-Express Care. If you need coupons, go get a coupon at Valvoline-expresscare.com. If you need an oil change this weekend, here are the locations: Cape Girardeau, Missouri; Highland, Illinois; Troy, Illinois; Lee May Ferry Road; Warrenton, Missouri; Mid Rivers Mall Drive; St. Peter's Parkway. And again, 15 minutes from Bay to on your way. That's their slogan. Easy, efficient oil changes with no sales pressure and all Valvoline branded products. Nice and easy. Valvoline Express Care, Valvoline expresscare.com if you need coupons. All right, let's bring in Mike and Amy. I feel better today, Isaiah. I was tired when we started, but I feel better. I think Sheriff Bonham and the biblical aspect of what's going on in the world made me feel better. You know what I mean?
Brought you down.
Look at these handsome characters. So we have Michael Compton. Where's your book? Right there.
Thank you again, Rob.
Everybody can see it. Keeping the Republic, and then, of course, Amy Castro. What's on your agenda today? I was hoping we could talk a little bit. Mike, I saw you weigh in on social media about Amendment 7. Can I just ask you about that? Because I'm curious how you see it. Again, it's one of these things where it might be really good legislation. I wouldn't understand it, and therefore I have to go with trust. And it's like I said with Sheriff Bonham, I know him. I like him, and if he says that the constitutional sheriff legislation is good, I tend to believe it. Whereas I hear the Republican Party tell me that I need to pass A5 or A4, I get a little bit queasy. What's your take on Amendment 7, you guys? I'm curious.
Well, Amendment 7 or Amendment 8? Amendment 8 is the Constitution.
No, Amendment 7, the one where they want to put a fund together. I'm curious.
Yeah. To me, it looks like I hate to say I think it's a political payoff, but I think it's a political payoff. Really? Yeah, because
yes!
Rob. To get to the number, so the idea, if people don't understand what the idea is that the legislature would start funding this fund, that they would go out and get a investment firm that offers something similar to the S&P 500 and manage it. And it has to get to almost $450 billion before they would have even enough to even think about having enough dividends to pay our state income tax, corporate income tax, and some other state taxes. It would only apply to those taxes, but they can't use any of it until it gets to that point. But getting to that point, you're talking about, when you get to $450 billion, whoever the firm's managing it's going to be making $100 million plus a year just to manage it. And just the way it's drafted, we've got an article we put out on the details. It just seems like we probably would never get there. And even the bill sponsor says it might take generations for us to get there. And in the meantime, the treasurer gets to pick whoever the firm is that manages this. There is no bidding process. The only requirement is that whatever fund that they put it in has to be based on the S&P 500, which,
So who have they said who would manage the money? Have they?
No, they won't say anything about that till after.
Do you have any suspicion of who might?
I don't know. Isaiah might have a clue.
Yeah,
of who.
Isaiah,
I know he spent some research on
who do you think
who might have a financial firm that could benefit from this.
Could manage that. We know somebody who's highly involved in Missouri politics that does that kind of stuff.
Who do you think it would be? If you had to guess.
Well, if the obvious choice would be Dimension. Is it Dimensions Funds?
Dimensions. Mm-hmm.
And that's owned or not owned, but was started by Rex Singfield.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That would not surprise me a bit. And what's so interesting about these things is I get into all these back and forths with people in Missouri when I come in and Rob, what is your take on this? And what is your take on that? No, somebody told me I should vote for A5. Somebody told me. And I said, listen, the only thing that I will say is that, a lot of these legislation amendments, if you can't understand them when you read them and you have to ask me for the advice, that should be an indicator that you're probably not on the right track, because at that point you're just saying, trust whatever I say or trust what the Republican Party is saying or what some of these offshoots of the Republican Party, some of these, so-called grassroots operations. I said, you have to trust them. And I said, my understanding of the political system in the state of Missouri is I wouldn't trust anything that they're doing for the most part. I just wouldn't trust it. I said, so I just vote no. If I don't understand it and I don't trust it, I'm out. That's where I come from. And that's kind of how this is. It's going to be very complicated for most people. They're going to look at this fund and how it's going to get rid of all the taxes in the state of Missouri. And I think they're going to go, same thing as A5. I don't trust it. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
You Mike, same thing?
Yeah. It just doesn't look like it's a plan that could work to begin with. And again, there's probably other investment firms that would love to get the contract, because it's going to be a great great contract for whoever would get it. But with the deficit in the budget, and we're trying to find ways to cut money, where are we ever going to find the money to fund it anyway? So
well, that's the other thing. There's no extra money to put in this fund. So who's funding the fund?
Right. Well, the people have to fund it. We'll fund it.
I mean, right? But
right.
So
taxes to fund it.
Yeah, it's money that goes nowhere for, like the bill sponsor says, maybe generations. So
yeah, and then everybody will forget about it as the money's flowing in. What do you guys think on Amendment 8, the constitutional sheriff that Bonham was just talking about? I saw Ron Calzone, who I like. I think Ron Calzone is incredibly bright. I think he's reasoned. And he said, I see a couple flaws in it, and he kind of laid that out on social media. Have you looked through that? Have you guys?
Yeah, I've started looking at it. I'm hoping to be able to talk to a couple sheriffs about some things in it. The concerns that show up for me, and again, I think this is probably the bigger picture of how they draft these bills to give us something that sounds good, but they always try to throw in something really bad. And on this one, my big concern that I need to work through is, it looks to me like the way it's written, that the attorney general would be the only person that could remove a sheriff. Now that could be good, but it's probably bad if you have if you have a Democrat president who passes some crazy gun bill, and you've got a conservative sheriff in a county that says, I'm not going to enforce that. And then we have a Democrat attorney general says, well, I'll just help my Democrat president out, and I'll just remove him from office. So
do you know who's behind the amendment?
One is
Nelson carried it, right?
No, it's what's her name in the
oh, I'm thinking, sorry, that's the
constitutional sheriff, you're saying?
Yeah.
Jane, I think, or something. Is that her name?
Who?
Why am I
I thought it was something Jane. Was the first name?
I can't remember now.
Yeah, I'm curious who wrote it.
Someone
I think the intention. I think the
intentions can be good.
Good.
Yeah.
You're right. Our sheriff's a very powerful person. We want to make sure do you know who the second most powerful person is in the county next to the sheriff? It's the coroner.
The coroner, that's right. But that's what Jeffrey Weinstein was running for when he was.
That's right. Yeah. So when you see counties, there's a county where there were like 8 or 9 people running for coroner. I was like, holy.
Yeah.
It's Jill Carter carried it.
Jill
Carter.
Yeah. I knew it was a J.
So I think, like I said, the intention was good. We want a constitutional sheriff. But like Mike and I were talking earlier, it's just the same theme over and over and over of this supposedly good intent. Then it gets muddied and it gets bad, or there's a bad element. And then because you point that out and you stand up, you get beat down because it wasn't, because you're just not going along to get along.
Then they tell you, well, you just want everything to be perfect. Well, it's not perfect, but not
detrimental.
They always seem to put, and Amy's talked about the poop brownie. And I think they draft these bills with their lobby class in mind for something they want to get through. And I think they build around that. So how do we get enough good stuff in here that we can get the support of the people through this? And so it's basically, how do we bake the cookies so there's enough other
good stuff,
ingredients in it, that they don't taste the poop in the brown.
Or the poison pill. They don't taste the poison.
Yeah. And Mike and I constantly talk about it. Is it incompetence or is it an actual methodology? And we always fall on the methodology side.
I do too. I think
it's so frustrating. So I'm like, this is intentional then. This is the way it works. And they're doing it on purpose. And it's to screw the people. And it's so maddening.
Right. It's the way I think it's happening. This is just an observation of mine, and I could be wrong, and you guys could tell me I'm wrong, or any of the politicians could tell me that I'm wrong. I think Mike hit it right on the head. When you look at it, I'm thinking of, okay, what happens as soon as they win the primaries? They go down to Branson, and then you have all the big corporate interests that kind of fund the Republican Party, and they wine and dine you, and you're buddies with these people at the end of the day because, charming people, and they say, oh, we're not here to hurt anybody. We'll support you, whatever you do, that kind of thing. And you get that love and admiration because now you're in a position of power and you can make legislation. You become one. And all of a sudden, when you become one, you start to organize your legislation around those lobbying groups. So if you want to get something done that's really good, right, you start off with good intentions, you write this bill, constitutional sheriff bill, tax bills, they all start off good. But then as the language starts to get put together, you'll see little holes in the legislation, the little outs and this and that and the other. And that is, I would have to assume, because a lot of these people are attorneys, that they're not doing it going, wow, that can never happen. Right? They're thinking, okay, well, if it needs to happen, we have this little out.
Yes, there's right that here. Little,
there's this little hole that you can crawl through if you need to. And it just appears to me that's the way they're organizing legislation in Jefferson City. I don't know that. That's just an opinion based on what I'm seeing and hearing. But it does seem to be the case that they just leave enough out and enough.
Or it's part of a much larger plan, and this is just the one little thing they need now. And the next session, it's going to be the next little thing they need. And I do believe it is like a globalist sovereignty kind of struggle.
Well,
I think
to
you can see
that
that.
note, where else have we seen our legislatures going? We just saw pictures on Facebook and X the last couple of weeks from the ALEC conference.
Right,
where they all went
ALEC,
down
right.
there. And that's where a lot of this legislation comes from. They go down there, and it's kind of like the national version of what we saw in Branson, where they bring in all the corporate interests. And here's the things that we need to get through your state legislatures. Here's the model legislation. Here's how you craft it to get it through. I mean, this is how you cook the poop brownie, basically.
And I was wondering why, because there's a lot of people, like I think I looked up ALEC, and I think that because we were talking about Nick Schroer, I think he was involved in it. He was one of the leaders with ALEC. Was it the American Legislative Exchange Council or something like that?
Something, yeah.
And I remember I did a report back in the day. So one of my buddies, Jeffrey Wilson, is listening. He goes, that report you did on ALEC, what is that? Do you have the video of that? And it was out of Georgia. And the guy did a report. He was a local reporter, and he went down into Georgia, and it was at one of these fancy hotels. And he said, now they lock the doors, you close the doors so you can't see what's going on inside. He said, but you have some of the most powerful industry in Georgia aligned with these people within the party system. And he goes, and they're working out legislation that we don't get to have any conversation in. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. I didn't know that was going on. So when I started paying attention that ALEC had a wing in Missouri and who was involved in it, the last time I paid attention to ALEC and I was looking through the people involved, it was Rex Sinquefield's daughter that was there that day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. Again, I understand from their point of view. I want Rex to understand where I'm coming from. I get it. If I had enough money to swing legislation in my favor, I would do it too. All we're trying to say is, can the people have a seat at the table? Maybe we don't like what Rex is thinking. Maybe
we don't want a seat at the table. We want to take the table.
Exactly. We want to have a conversation too, because ultimately we understand.
No, I want to take the table. I'm not sitting at the table.
You're going to flip over the money. Well, you just want to have.
Their money's there. The money's there. I believe the grassroots. This annoys me too, because I'm like, all these successful business people in the grassroots that we know, you're advertisers. They're very successful people. And I bet Isaiah could speak to this too with fundraising. The money's there. And we don't have to go dollar to dollar to these establishment groups. I think once more of us, the ants, really get the game and understand what's going on, the strategy falls in place and it'll be there. But they
say it takes a lot of money to sell a bad idea. The opposite is true too. It doesn't take as much to sell a good idea.
That's
right. I mean, for example, if we were to go into, I talk about this all the time privately with my friends. I say, if I were to go into Jefferson City and say, okay, we've got this big, huge apparatus, a $50 billion operation going on annually in the state of Missouri. How do we return power and make sure that the people are being satisfied? And the first thing I would say is the bills have to be very tiny, very understandable. If you read the bill and you realize that 100 IQ, right down the middle, an average IQ, cannot understand the legislation, then we don't need it. Get it out of there. Make it nice. All these bills should not be done with legal ease so that only an attorney can understand the ins and outs of the bill. It should be written for the average citizen because you're working on behalf of the citizens. So therefore, the bills should be very simple to understand. They should be single subject, right? And if you pass, this should be easy. This is something they should talk about right now. If you pass a multi-subject bill and it goes to the Supreme Court of Missouri and it gets shot down because it's multi-subject, whoever voted in favor of it should be removed from office because they're not following their own constitution. And it's not hard to decipher what multi-subject is. No. We did it with what was it? Was it the stadium bill where we talked about that? I said, this is unconstitutional. I mean, what are they doing? And then they passed it. And again, it got shot out, right? It got shot down. I just think that anybody that votes for those kinds of things should have it should be just automatic. Their seat is taken away. They have a special election and get rid of them. Because if you're not going to follow the Missouri Constitution, then what do I need you for?
And they do take an oath to follow the Missouri Constitution. So that should be a violation for sure.
Well, and I think, another aspect that happens, Rob, to give you some insight, is when the elected come in, leadership, or I don't know, probably HRCC, the first thing they try to find out is what is near and dear to your heart. What issue is near and dear to your heart? It's psychological. It's just like what you said and Silicon Valley said. So if I'm elected and they know that property rights, or it's my, like, I promised my people I was going to bring that back, they're going to say, Amy, you know what? We're going to let you have that, but we're going to put some of this stuff on there. And then you go, okay, well, I'll take a little bit because I really want to take my hot topic back to my people. And then it starts to spin. Well, that's where you have to be like a deal. When you close a deal, you know, one of the closing things is you walk. You say, nope, I'm sorry. I'm standing up from the table. Our elected won't do that.
Well, that's, it's funny you say that, because in big business, when you're talking about millions of dollars,
yeah,
when
you can't be afraid to walk.
Well, yeah, when you get into negotiation, it's like, telling people how much you love a car when you go into a car lot. Oh my God, I love this car so much.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do that. That's idiotic.
Right. You're telling them you're going to do an emotional buy, and I'm going to say you are going to look so cool in that car. Exactly. I mean, you're going to feel the wind blowing through your hair, and your favorite song is going to be on the radio. We've got a great stereo. And when you touch that leather with your hand, you're going to feel like you are in control of the world. And then that blonde, that chick, that woman that you love, she's going to get in that car next to you, and man, you are going to have the world.
I want this car.
I want that car.
Did you learn that from Governor? Did you learn that from Governor Tito?
Right now, I will make a payment that you can afford. I'll go talk to my manager right now. Would you say you were at 800? I can get that deal for you. Hang on just a minute. I'm going to go, and I'm like, I got this guy for $800 a month. Give me that contract he's going to sign now.
You're getting good at this, Amy. Very,
I'm
very
from
nice.
The background. I mean, that's my. I'm like this, and so what happens? Blessed, we have good people to go up there, and they have a heart set on a topic or an issue. They use it and they leverage them to combine it in with the bill. I mean, I'm thinking of one particular senator, and it just their emotion gets in it, right? Because they want it now. And the other component is they said, well, if I go back and I ran on a certain topic and I go back to my constituency and I didn't deliver, then they're upset with me. But the constituency needs to be smarter and ask them, well, why weren't you able to get that? And then, Bryant Wolfen's done a good job of going back, say, yes, I voted no on this, even though it sounds like I should have voted yes, but here's why I voted no. And they're all like, oh, right thing.
Right. And so, I think the fact that Brian Wolfen got reelected, that David Robertson won, I was talking to some people that were really disappointed about what happened in St. Charles County, because a lot of people close to me and myself included wanted to see hand counting of paper ballots. We wanted Jen Olson to win that, race. We were hoping that Bill Eigel would win the race. We just wanted a kind of a different look. And then, if Bill Eigel goes astray, then we get on Bill Eigel. If Jen Olson goes astray, but I wanted to see some new blood in there to do things just a little bit different, and it didn't happen. But at the end of the day, if you look at Amendment 4 and 5, I have to say that the grassroots they have to feel like they can put a feather in their cap, because again, when it gets shot down 83 to 17%, the number one initiative of a Republican governor is to eliminate income tax, and he comes up with this particular scheme, A5. And when it gets shot down 83 to 17, you have to take a victory lap with that. You have to say, wait a minute, see, now you got to play ball with us, because if we start talking bad about your legislation, we now have power to hurt you. Right. And that's what you want. You want your government to be concerned about the people speaking up and learning all the tricks and all the games, and all that. Because once you start to recognize the tricks and the games and who's aligned with who, then the political landscape starts to make more sense. And I think that you guys did a terrific job, number one. I think the Shield Maidens did a terrific job. I think guys like Ron Calzone did a good job. I think Rhino Watch did a good job. We just put out the information for everybody. So, we'll take a little bit of
we need that. We need that. That's an important.
Yeah, we like that. But I'm so proud that we are finally starting to have some influence over the political landscape in the state of Missouri, because you have to have somebody that looks out for the middle class. Almost all of the bills should be looking out for the middle class. If I'm making $1 million, I don't want to sound like a Democrat here, but the reality of it is if I'm making $1 million annually, I'm not worried about where my prescriptions are going to come from, and I'm not worried about whether I can feed my 2-year-old. But if you're making $40,000 in America as a single mother, and you have to work 40 hours a week to make $40,000 and raise 2 children because dad's an asshole and he took off on you, and now those people are in turmoil. I mean, they're in constant turmoil trying to raise their kids, and we have to be, as a society, somewhat understanding of that, don't we? I mean, good Lord. I mean, I'm a capitalist at heart, and I want everybody to make as much money.
I think what you mentioned, that we're doing this to hurt our side or to hurt our officials, but really it's for better governance.
100%.
And that's what we're trying to say is many of us have reached a limit where we're like, okay, what is going on? I mean, the suppression, I think you had, who's your financial guy that was on there?
Rick Babbitts.
He was saying that everybody's feeling this weight and this struggle, and it's becoming heavier and more intense. And it's like, what's going on? It's just not the same country. It's not the same country.
Well, don't you say this has nothing to do with age? I'll ask you, Mike, and then you can answer. Don't you feel like when I was younger, I go back and I watch old ball games. I'm kind of weird. I love sports. I love competition. I'm a very competitive guy, and I'm a baseball freak. So I'll be scrolling through my, whatever when I'm bored or what have you, traveling, moving, and I'll watch old baseball games. And just the joy, like you go watch the Cubs games from the 70s and 80s when Harry Carey was announcing the games and they were singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," and you look down to the crowd. That looks like freedom to me. People look free. They look happy. They don't look like they're weighed down by society. And now it just, you still have exciting moments and this and the other, but you don't feel the joy that society used to have at times in the past. And there feels like there is a weight driving people down. And the only thing the only thing that makes any sense to me is that it is the anxiety of making a living in our world right now. For big portions of America, they're freaking out. I don't know what the number is, but there's a large percentage of people that say if there was a $500 incident in their home, they couldn't pay for it. I've got friends right now that I'd like your help with. I got a buddy right now whose parents are going to lose
I heard that story.
They're in Bridgeton, Missouri.
Yeah.
They're in their 80s, and they're going to take their home from them today, as a matter of fact, if they couldn't pay their property taxes.
When this was going on, when we went to those commission meetings, Jackson County had 27,000 properties on the courthouse stairs for unpaid taxes.
That's your government.
They thought that was okay.
Yeah.
And there's AI and these assessments and
that was all across the state. As we followed those across the state last summer,
just
story after story. And it's people. And these were mostly people that had paid off their homes. They'd done everything the way they were supposed to do it. They worked hard all their lives. They retired. They had a home paid for, and now they can't pay the property tax on it. And you had business owners coming forward too that said, my taxes went up $20,000 on my business property in 1 year. I don't have that kind of profit to make up the difference. I'm out of business, or I'm going to have to move out of the state.
Yep.
So they're worried about moving out of the state, and they're going to give them, well, we won't charge they want to do the income tax, but they don't do anything that really helps those type of small businesses that are getting forced out from the same government.
Yeah. And think of a scenario, because it's bothersome to me. I've been really bummed out about it. Because I think it'll happen to my family at some point, right? Think of an idea where your government, because think of the courage that it would take to come to an 85-year-old person's home who is ill, who owns their home outright, paid for it, bought it for $150,000 in 1976. They've lived there their entire lives. It's 2026, and here comes the government and the banks to knock on your door to say, well, I'm sorry that you can barely pay your medical bills because you had a little run-in because you're 80 and you're ill and you need prescription drugs and you need care. And now you're out of money and you can't pay your $5,000 property tax bill because we've assessed your home at $600,000 now, although you paid $150,000 for it and you paid it off 15 years ago. Just think of the courage it takes to knock on somebody's door and kick these people out of their house and put them on the streets. Just think of that. It's so maddening to me that we would allow our society to get in this position where we think it's okay for our government to basically steal the home of an elderly person who is ill. It just makes me mental that the state of Missouri doesn't come in and do something about it. It's unconscionable that we allow this to happen. And I think it's probably happening because most people in the state of Missouri have no idea that it's happening. Wouldn't you agree that most people just don't know that that's happening?
I would think so. I think people are waking up, and I think that's why, we get back to A4 and A5. I think, we were part of the groups that put out the information, but the people ran with it. They understood it. They stood up for themselves. They asked the tough questions. They went to their town halls and they challenged them, So
The people really did the great. I mean, we got the information out, but it was the people that read it, understood it, shared it, kept talking about it. I mean,
the social media back and forth was so beautiful.
Oh, it was great.
It was so good. I mean, I was called. I don't know if you guys did. You guys get it like I did, where they were calling me a communist? And,
my gosh,
you guys got it too.
Oh,
communist. I'm a communist now. Yeah, I don't
we
like
got the little cartoon of all the little
they
Karl
did.
Marxes, and I had our little sign that said "Act for Missouri." Oh yeah,
I love it. It's just so interesting to me the way they fought us.
It's Timmy. Timmy had to make a little cartoon of us and get it all up there.
Well, they didn't fight us.
He's still mad. Timmy's still mad. Every day he posts the same post on X. I'm like, don't you have anything more productive to do?
Do you think that is because there's an incentive to get those bills passed and they didn't pass, so there was some money left on the table? Is that what it is?
Absolutely.
You do believe that? Okay.
Oh yeah.
I kind of guess that. I just don't know what's going on.
I mean, we don't know what it is exactly, but I think it's safe to say that there was some backroom agreement, or it was some structure to set up something else. Yeah.
All right.
We don't know what it is, but
last thing, I just want to get your opinion. I know where you're at, Amy. What are you hearing about A3? Because I put something out on social media and I said, is A3, because this is Adam Schnelting's baby, is A3 designed, and I mean designed, not maybe Adam Schnelting did it to its design that way, but in its design, I think I kind of left that open-ended on purpose, but is it designed in a manner that where it really can't pass? I look at A3 and this is just me on the back of a napkin because I don't have any polling to support my opinions. I'm just saying, if you take a bill and you know that the left, right, the liberal Democrats, and I think 95% of the Democrat Party is for a woman's right to choose, put that in quotation marks, right? So they want the woman's right to choose, and they think that you saying that you want to stop abortion from happening means you're infringing on a woman's right to take control of her body. Got it. That's where they're coming from. But it is a religion to them, because I have people in my family, every time there's a pro-choice march, they're out there with their hats and this and that. They're all excited about protecting women's rights, right? This is where they're coming from. And then you go to the right and you say, okay, well, I think this is probably pretty much a 50-50 split. I think between the Democrats and the Republicans, it's always kind of right down the middle on these issues. And then I craft a bill that you think is going to compromise, like you're going to get people from the left to come over. I can just tell Adam Schnelting and the people that put this bill together, the left ain't coming to your side. You can forget that. That's not going to happen. I mean, come on now. You paying attention to what the Democrats tell their people? That's not happening. So now you go to the right and you say, okay, we're going to enshrine in our Constitution the ability to abort certain babies. Then you take the Christian ideology and you say, I can't support that. I can't with good conscience support that. Then you have the people that call themselves Christians, and they're good people, they're well-meaning, and they say, well, you got to do it. So this will save babies. You can't say you're not going to save babies. We got to do this incrementally. Forget where you're at on the spectrum. You are splitting the right by the nature of this bill and unifying the left against.
And remember the original A3, the one that put abortion into our Constitution in 2024, it only passed by less than 2%. So that is your 50-50 split that you're talking about right there. So the obvious choice would have been, hey, let's just try to repeal what they did there.
Amen.
And you would have had all of the groups on the right united together. We'd say, let's spend money this time. We didn't spend any money last time. Let's get started before September this time. We didn't start till September last time fighting that. We could have done like the town halls and stuff. The effort that they put in for A5, if we put that in for that, we would have been able to do it.
Exactly.
Get it through. And it absolutely feels like it was designed. And I think as far as the political party in Missouri Right to Life goes, it's a win-win, because if it fails, they can still collect money and run on the abortion issue, say, we'll try again later, we'll try again. If it passes, then they really haven't done anything, because any woman in Missouri that wants to get an abortion can still get an abortion. She can either claim it was rape, she can order the pill, she can go to Illinois or Kansas. There's nothing that stops her from actually getting an abortion. It makes it a little bit more inconvenient for her, but it doesn't stop any abortions. And so they have to come back and say, well, now we have to fix this, so you have to give us more money and give us more stuff. And either the repeal would have been good, or the personhood. If we were having the personhood conversation, then we're talking about more an abortion. We're talking about, when does life begin? And that would have been a much different.
So here's my theory. I think they wanted exceptions in the Constitution. Trump also kind of indicated that's what he wanted. That's what the Republican Party needed to do. That was the goal. But they knew in this state that was never going to fly. So we go ahead and let this crazy free-for-all bill go through. And they spin it, and people don't know what they're voting for. They make it sound like it's one thing, so then boy, did we try to educate on that. They do that. So now, because people are like, oh my gosh, we did this terrible bill, we have to go back, and what we're going to do is give them exactly what they wanted in the beginning. Because I am telling you, mark my word, if we put this into the Constitution for the second time, done deal. We will never go back. It's not going to be in our lifetime. It will remain in the Constitution forever. I have been told directly by an elected, there is no political will to revisit the topic of abortion once this is done. They're not going back, people.
And that's how they
done.
satisfy the abolitionists. That's how they satisfy them. Is this is just the first step, right? So vote for it. This is the first step, and then we'll go to it.
They're telling people they're going to go back and they're going to do all this, but the language says they're only going to provision. They're going to only regulate the actual act of abortion, not get rid of abortion.
They only regulate the clinics, the doctors, and anything that would contribute to the health of the woman, not the baby, the health of the woman.
Health of the woman. So, yeah, not the baby. The baby's basically out of the picture.
Do you think it fails?
I think it fails.
Yeah, we think it fails. Of course.
I think it fails too.
All because of us, of course.
And I'm not even going to really take a position on it because I don't want to be the one that they go, well, you guys pushed. I'm like, okay, listen. Yeah. What I want to do is I want to say to the people who are pro-life, right? The abolitionists, which is where I am personally. I just got to be honest with you. I wasn't for the majority of my life, but I have grown up. I get it now, and I'm like, okay. I understand culturally what this has done to us. I think we should just outlaw abortion. I think we should love life. We should talk about life. We should be there for each other. We need a more kind and just society, and it starts with taking care of our babies in the womb. That's the way I see it now. I didn't forever. I didn't see it that way. I didn't care about it necessarily. It wouldn't have been a big deal to me. But as I've gotten older and I've raised family and I've watched society, I think, go the wrong direction, it now makes sense to me. So I don't want to be the guy that stops anything. What I want to do is point out to the Republican Party that you have to start listening to people. You guys want to have a top-down, corporate-driven government, and it's not working for you, and it's going to get worse, and we're going to get louder, and it's going to get more annoying to you. All you have to do is embrace us and say, well, wait a minute, what do you guys think would be best for us? Instead of having all your lobbyists talk to you, start talking to your constituents, because I have to believe that the majority of people that are pro-life would prefer a complete ban. So if you gave them a complete ban and said, we're just going to outlaw abortion in the state of Missouri, whatever Kansas wants to do or Illinois, that's there. But in our boundaries, we just want to make the statement that we think abortion is not good for society and we don't want to have it. That's it. Just make that argument. Now all of the pro-lifers are excited. Now they're all coming out in unison, and now we can have the real fight with the pro-life and pro-choice argument. But giving half a loaf, I think is just going to split people, and you're going to have the left united and the right split, and that's the way this will play.
Well, and what's the argument? I mean, the one for yes on 3, all their signs say stop transgenderism.
Oh yeah,
not
and
stop abortion.
Right, and 99% of the babies will be saved. That's what they continue to say. 99%.
And the transgenderism, that's false. That's false advertising because we already have that in the law. The surgeries have stopped.
Tell me about that real fast, then I got to bring in Jake. What is your take on this, the transgenderism thing? I thought it was a done deal, but I hear commentary back and forth.
Back and forth.
What's your take on it?
Well, there is a sunshine for, so the surgeries are banned. There's a sunshine on using the
chemical castration
chemicals that would expire next August, which you would think with our supermajority we would have been able to lift that sunshine so it didn't expire, but somehow that didn't happen, at least not now, because they wanted to push that as a reason to vote for this, I think. But
gotcha. All right, I'm gonna keep an eye on it. Great to see you guys. Anything else you got going on?
We're trying to recharge, get ready for the fall. I mean, we've had a big fight for amendments 4 and 5. Just trying to take a few weeks to regroup and recharge for the fall and get ready. Next session will be starting before
we've got veto sessions in September.
December 1st, they're going to drop about 2,000 bills on us. So,
oh yeah, you'll start to you get the research going. Look at September 18th. You don't have to tell me now, but if you're available on September 18th, I'd love to have you guys there. That's going to be a big deal for me personally because I want to have Phil Turney come in. I want to kind of lay the groundwork for the things we're trying to get done and really do my best I possibly can to organize people that are on the same wavelength. We don't have to agree on every issue, but on the same wavelength in the theory that we have to have more pressure on our government. They have to feel the weight of the people of Missouri in order to get them to move off their spot. And we got to band together to get that done. So September 18th, it'll be in St. Charles County. If you guys can be there, I'd love to have you. If you can't, I'll just put pictures, cardboard cutouts of you. And people
You've got some interesting comments on your the comment thread. I want to go back. Just so you know, I want to go back and look.
I wasn't paying attention. Good or bad?
Yeah.
Good. Interesting. Yeah.
Oh yeah, lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
And I also got a message from Sheriff Bonham, and he
Yeah.
gave me a breakdown that I guess Amendment 8, I guess right now the Attorney General can already remove a sheriff, and
Okay.
so this is it would enshrine it in the Constitution that this is the only way, because right now I guess there are multiple ways that a sheriff can be removed right now. I just looked this up too and confirmed it, and Attorney General is one of them. And so this would, I just read the language here. It says that it would put it in the Constitution that this would be the only way that they would be able to be removed.
So what are the other ways to remove a sheriff? Is one of them
right now, I
the
think
power of the people?
Local, there's a local
Yeah.
way sheriffs
So
can be
take away
removed,
the
things like
local.
that. Yeah. And so I think that that's interesting because it's the Attorney General only.
Only.
And I think that
I
people would
think we
prefer
should
it would
remove.
be the
I
local
think it should
only.
be the local people that get to decide.
Local only.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Only.
Again, it's that
That's what I
common
found
theme. Take away the local power. Take away the local power. Put in the cameras. Take away the local power. There's a theme here.
You know what I'd like to see? I'd like the sheriffs to be able to take out the Attorney General if they don't follow the law.
Yeah.
I think it should be the opposite. The sheriffs that are controlling the Constitution should be able to take
And the
out.
Attorney General actually can't even take them out now or in the Constitution with Amendment 8. They're not able to take them out. They can just start a process to take it to the courts, and then the
Okay.
courts decide. And so it's not the actual Attorney General who would decide. They would start a process or some type of, I don't know what the verbiage is, but essentially take it to the courts, and then the courts would rule on it if they would be removed or not.
And I think it should be the people. That's why I said it. The people should be making that decision. I'll talk to Sheriff Bonham about it. We'll get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. Let's talk about it more. Let's figure it out.
He's a good man, that's for sure.
Yep,
Good
for
to see you guys. Keep it
Okay.
up. Hang on. Let me give you a little shout out.
Oh, there it is. The book.
Don't let me forget every time you guys are on. Keeping the Republic, Michael
It
Compton.
is now available on audio on the website, keepingtherepublicbook.com.
Audio's where I'm at. You know me.
Yeah.
I got to say, the reason I think this is important, I just got to give you a plug very quickly. At some point, you have to understand that if people are not involved in their government, they ultimately will lose what our ancestors fought for. That's just the reality of the situation. Ronald Reagan said it best: we're just one generation away from losing our freedom. You have to understand how your government works from top to bottom. If you don't, then there's a book that will guide you. And I think it's something that parents should be giving their kids and saying, okay, kids, you want the car when you turn 16 years old? Give me a report on this book. That's what I did to my kids. You know, my kids were acting up. I'd give them a book on coaching or something. I said, okay, you want that? Read that book. Give me a book. I'd already read it. I said, give me a report on that. And then we'll move forward, because you gotta flood their minds with things that actually matter, and understanding how to keep your freedom should be something a parent passes on to their children. So I think it's great. Keeping the Republic, a citizen's guide for the next 250 years. Michael Compton, get out there and buy the book, support Mike and Amy and Act for Missouri. And we'll see you guys again soon.
Great. Thanks, Rob.
You got it. Have a great day.
Take care.
See you guys.
Bye.
All right. I love when they're on. I don't know why I'm in a better mood today, Isaiah. And I was so bummed out yesterday. My buddy Ryan Parker passed away. And you know what was kind of interesting yesterday is Ryan had a very storied life, Isaiah.
Mm-hmm.
He was in and out of prison when he was young. He got into a fist fight at a Taco Bell on St. Charles Rock Road when he was about 19 years old. And he obviously won the fight. He was a big, strong kid. Won the fight and hurt the person, and ended up being in prison for how many ever years. He just kind of had this tragic life. His dad died early. His mom died. He just had all kinds of craziness going on. But when he got out of prison, and we all welcomed him back. He was friends of ours since we were in middle school, and he really became this kind of character that was a happy-go-lucky. Just did not let the weight of the world get him down. No matter what was going on, he always had a smile on his face. So when he passed away, you never know how people are going to feel about somebody like that, right? In prison
Oh
for a
yeah.
little bit. Ryan was a very complex guy, but I was looking at all of the people, and he took in basically 5 kids. He started dating this woman.
Mhm.
They were together for about 10 years, and he took in all of her kids, 5 kids. And I was looking at social media yesterday, and I was listening to what the kids were saying about him, and it just made me happy. I know Ryan, when you're, up in heaven and you finally get the recognition that you want because he never asked for anything. He took
Mm.
all of those kids in. He showed up at their events. He loved them. He cared for them. He paid for them, and just did everything he could to make sure they had a happy life. And to see the recognition, sometimes it's too late. You know what I mean, Isaiah?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
Always,
that's
Bill knows him. Bill said always smiling. We went to school, so I have some friends on here that I went to school with. Ryan was just a guy that you could not be unhappy around. He was always in a good mood, always wanting to have a good time, always laughing, and to see the outpouring of love
yeah.
for him, I thought was really it kind of made me sad yesterday, but it did.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see.
Yeah, that's what, anyone who ever thinks about taking their own life, that's one of the things. And I've had conversations with people like that, that tell me that and share that with me because, being in ministry, that happens a lot, working in churches and stuff. And one of the things that I always remind people like that of is that you don't realize how many people would, be at your funeral,
Yeah.
and you think that no one cares about you, but the reality is that if you did take your life, there would be tons of people at your funeral that would be mourning that you're gone.
Yes.
And you don't realize, you may not feel that right now, but that's the reality of what life would look like for someone who may not feel like they're that great, you know what I mean, or just having a hard time in life. Is you don't know that until it's
It's
like what is it, Huckleberry Finn, right, where he sees his own funeral.
uh-huh.
There's watching that, and he's kind of surprised by that, right, by all the people. Um, and that's just kind of how I think about it, is that we don't really know the impact that we have until we are gone,
Yep.
because people don't come and tell us that we impacted their life necessarily. Some people do, but you don't really know the impact until you see the outpouring of support, gifts, the attendance at someone's funeral or something like that, right? It's pretty incredible. I had a buddy that he killed himself, and he overdosed on drugs, and he purposefully overdosed on drugs. He did a bunch of cocaine, and then he took about 30 Xanax bars. And
That'll
so
do it.
he killed himself. And there was like 250 people at his funeral in this tiny room, just packed all the way to the wall. And it's like, man, if Ryan could see all these people here today, he wouldn't have felt like that. That moment.
Yeah.
That's why I always, I'm the type of person that I'll reach out to people.
Me too.
I'll bother them because it's like Ryan was a close friend of mine. That guy, funny, the guy's name's Ryan, but
Yeah, same name.
yeah, same name. But Ryan was a close friend of mine, and he was having a hard time in his life financially, and I got him a good job, and it was a good job, but the people in the job weren't necessarily good because it's sales. You know how people can get in sales, Rob, and
Mhm.
so in that. I know he was already kind of doing drugs before. He's already kind of dabbling in that recreationally before.
Mhm.
So I was trying to kind of help him move a little bit forward. But that's the nature of that, is that someone doesn't really realize sometimes the impact that they're having until they're gone,
Sometimes
or
they
their
don't.
legacy. Even sometimes people don't even realize that they have a legacy
Right.
until they're gone, right?
Had
And they're
a
like, man,
Yeah, I had a guy that I worked with in Boston. I worked for a company called Clark's up there for a long time. There was a guy who was a motivational speaker for our business. So he was one of these guys that he would start off the sales meetings, and he was real tight with the president of the company. His name was Joe Salzano.
Mm.
And Joe said to me one time, he'd sent me either a letter or a book, and he had signed the inside of the book. And I saw him at the next sales meeting. I said, that was really nice.
Mm.
He told me, so he was one of these guys that was like a father figure to a lot of
Yeah.
people. He pulled me aside and he goes, Rob, he goes, if I could make some, effect on people's life, he goes, a letter, just a handwritten letter every now and again to somebody that you love. He goes, they'll keep that forever. The
Yes.
stuff that makes people feel worthwhile in life, that you thought enough
Oh
just
yeah.
to write a 3-line letter, send them a card, and not because it's their birthday, just because it's Tuesday and you were on their mind.
Yeah.
This is how you connect with people and let you know, and they know that you love them. He goes, and that's what keeps the spirit alive. And I
Yeah.
always remember that. I always remember that. I thought, it was a really nice thing to do. It was kind of out of the blue. And you can only imagine for these people that suffer for whatever thing that's going on, mental disease, somebody in their family died. Life is just really tough at the time. They feel alone. And then they get something from somebody that cares about them. And all of a sudden you feel like, okay, it's a breath of fresh air. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Great line that my pastor uses all the time that I love. He says, you're doing better than you think you are. And he tells that to people. He's like, hey, you're doing better than you think you are.
Yeah.
And it's like,
you're
man,
still there.
you don't realize that you need to hear that. But I say that to people, and I've said it to people all the time. I said, hey, you don't realize that you're doing better than you think you are. And you
Right.
can see their face like, wow, like just change. And like, oh my gosh, like, thank you for recognizing me.
Yeah. Amen. All right. Let me get,
It's a Wonderful Life, Kurt. Yes, that's a great story to talk about how someone just doesn't understand the impact that they have.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Great movie, by the way.
Oh,
We got
great
Jake
movie.
waiting in the bullpen. Jake's like, hey, come on now. You're 15
Yeah.
minutes late. He's chomping at the bit. We'll get Jake on.
Yeah, I
Let me
love the videos you're sending, Jake. Those are hilarious.
Jake just caused more ruckus. It's one of the reasons I really appreciate Jake is Jake knows how to get under the skin of people to make them think, and I really enjoy that about him. I don't really, I don't even know how
Fights
to.
back. I love
I
that.
don't know how to explain it, but he knows and he doesn't get offended. Like when they come after him, he just fights back at the same level they come back at him. But he really irritates people, and he irritates people because he's pulling them out of the closet, if you
Yeah.
will, to come out into the light and argue for their opinion. And I just find it very interesting the way he's doing it. There's a guy that does it here in Florida. His name's Chris Nelson. We played a clip from him yesterday. Same kind of situation where he just draws out, and you get to see how people fight. You get to see how people relate. You get to see it all. And I find it a benefit. I'm learning a lot because Jake is picking scabs on certain politicians in the state of Missouri. And then I get to see how they relate to Jake or how they respond to Jake. And I think, I don't know, man, good Lord. How old are you? I mean,
Yeah.
Jake's a young guy and he's trying to get under your skin, but the way you're fighting him makes me think you're insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, rackcustomcoatings.com, rackcustomcoatings.com. This is my friend Rich McQuay. Again, if you have if you're somebody who makes the decisions on, industrial spaces, retail spaces, this flooring and the artistry of Rich McQuay is something you got to pay attention to. It is absolutely amazing. Epoxy flooring. He's been around since 2001. You can see the pictures on the screen. Great guy, big supporter of this show. I like it. And I talked about it yesterday. So that my friend that committed suicide, he is the one that did this for my garage. At my old home, I had this beautiful, beautiful home. I was so proud of it. It was one of those things where I grew up in North County, always 1 and 2 bedroom homes with my mother. We never had a lot of money. And then when I started making a nice living, I had this, my ego got a little bit ahead of me and I saw this big home. I could afford it, on a golf course, 7,200 square foot. It was like a shrine to my ego, if you will. But I did love the house, I must say. And I had 5 kids and my dad was living with me. I had a big operation going on, but I absolutely love the house. And then I go out in the garage. We had this 4-car garage and it was just dirty. The previous owner, there were oil stains and it was just kind of messy and funky. So it looks like you'd come out of the kitchen into the garage and it would just look like you were walking out of this pristine, beautiful home into this crappy garage. And Ryan said to me, he goes, I can do the flooring for you. He was looking to make some extra money at the time. And I said, what are you going to do? And he goes, it's epoxy. And he showed me a couple pictures. I said, go for it. I left to go out of town, I believe is the way I remember it. And I came back from vacation. I opened up the garage doors and, and the flooring just looked pristine and beautiful. And from that point forward, I absolutely loved opening the garage doors to see the flooring on it, which is epoxy flooring. I just got to say to people, if you are somebody who puts on events in your garage or you have a beautiful car, or you have a beautiful home in your garage, got the oil stains and the cobwebs in the corner and it looks like crap, consider it. I promise you will love it. It's one of those guilty pleasures that once you have it done, you're glad you did. RackCustomCoatings.com. Locally owned and operated since 2001. Rich McQuay. You can reach him at 636-398-5040. 636-398-5040. Rack, R-A-K, CustomCoatings.com. Give Rich a call. Do some business with him. You will not be disappointed. And then Carrington Financial, your caring advisor.com. Rick Bavich. You can see him every Tuesday on this show. You get to see what he's all about. I will tell you this. If you have money to protect, if you're nearing retirement and you do not get the opinion of Rick Bavich, I think you're making a huge mistake. He's not cookie cutter. He's got a vast expertise on currencies, what's going on in the world, how to protect your money, how to grow your money. He's done an incredible job for us. Stock market was going up and up and up and up. And I'd look at my wife's 401k and I'm like, stock market's going through the roof. You're not making a ton of money. I call Rick. Rick says, okay, let me see it. Takes a look at it. We got it on the screen with him, right? So we're kind of walking him through. He goes, nope. He goes, get out of that. Do this. Boom, 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 boom. And it went up by 33% in like a couple months. It was incredible. I was like, wow. I mean, you don't even pay attention to your 401k. Most people, they just throw it into a 401k fund. They didn't pay attention to it. He adjusted our 401k for us and it took off like wildfire. And I'm very thankful because, it's kind of nice. YourCaringAdvisor.com. My man, Rick Babbitt's 314-671-0525. Rick Babbitt's. All right, let's bring in Jake Jackson. He wants to talk about what he sees going on, which is very similar to what I see going on. I think he's probably done a little bit more study than me because he's kind of like you, Isaiah. What's going on, Jake?
Hey guys, that was a very depressing segment leading up to me.
Yes.
But in all seriousness, suicide is terrible. I've encountered people in my life that were suicidal, or they just had terrible self-worth, or they self-harmed themselves, and it's just absolutely terrible.
You got to let people know that you care about them. That's the one thing most people don't do. They get tied up in their own life. They got their own problems. They got their own worries. And sometimes just reaching out to somebody else and telling them you love them, you're thinking about them.
I love you, Rob. I love you, Isaiah.
I love you too, guys. And it doesn't necessarily help you as much as help that person as much as sometimes it helps you just to say it and to do it. Yeah. One thing that's good about all of my close friends, and I am very fortunate. I mean, if you scroll through here, you'll see a half a dozen of my friends that are on this feed every day that I've had forever. And we always end our conversations with "I love you," and that's the way I ended my conversation. My last conversation with Ryan was "I love you, brother. Hope you have a great day." That's how we end it, and that is because you never know. You never know, and you want your last words, your last communications to be positive. Ryan didn't commit suicide; he had a heart attack. He had a heart attack at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Wow!
Picking up food to take home. He had just called. It's funny story, not funny, but interesting story.
So last December, my grandmother passed away in Branson, Missouri, with her family. So it was actually kind of a beautiful way for her to kind of go out because she was with her family. She was in Branson having fun, and she was like 81.
Interesting. Just recently?
Yeah, that was back in December, right before Christmas.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Were you close with her?
Yeah, I had a really great relationship with my grandmother.
That's nice. I didn't have a lot of close contact with my grandparents. Always something I wish I would have had a little better relationships or had more time with grandparents. I didn't get that luxury.
Yeah, it's truly a blessing to have your grandparents.
My son and my father are very close, which I love. All right, let's get back to politics. We get into personal stuff, and I could go all day, and then you get me start crying again. I don't want to do that. I feel crazy. You want to talk about the demonization of the Muslim population right now and how the right is using it. I see the same thing. That's why we started the show. Isn't it funny, Isaiah? How the world works. I'm putting this together last night, and this is what I'm talking about. You saw the title is Radical Zionism and Radical Islam and how they're working together. And right in the middle of it, I get a text message from Jake saying, "Did you see this?" And it's a video of what's going on in Dearborn. He said, "I think the right is the demonization of Muslims is a tool that the right is using." And I said, "That's the show tomorrow. How crazy is that?" I said, "Can you come on?" And here he is. It's amazing how the world starts to work and people start to see things at the same time.
Muslims and communists are the enemy, right?
Yeah. What are you seeing, Jake? What's your take on things? And I have several videos if you want me to show them.
Yeah, so I don't think this is being pushed by the right. I don't think this is organic in any way, shape, or form. This has been something I've noticed that has been seeded into public consciousness since about last year. I think it really kicked off with October 7th in 2023 with the October 7th attack on Israel. But this has really kicked off in 2025. And actually asked Grok, when did this anti-Muslim, anti-Islam like talk rhetoric begin? And Grok was able to pinpoint 1,100 posts by Republican politicians in February of 2025, pretty much worrying about like Muslim cities, Sharia law areas, and there hasn't been a single area in the United States where Muslims have implemented Sharia law, not even in Dearborn, Michigan. And so I think this it's anti-Islam. Muslims are a threat. Islam is a threat. I think this is kind of inorganic, coming out of nowhere, and I think it's really designed to keep us distracted.
I do too. I think that's exactly what's going on. I think it'll be used as a political wedge. I think that is the intention because now you're starting to see in your feed, which I'm sure you're seeing in your feed on social media. You're starting to see all of this confrontation going on in Dearborn. I want to play a little bit of that and get your take on it. Did you see the one where this Jake Lang, did you send that to me?
Yeah, I sent that stuff to you. I've been tracking him.
Okay, so that's where I got it from. I had not heard of the guy, and I'm watching this, and you could see the people that watch Fox News going, yeah, oh, Jake, get him, Jake. And I'm thinking, oh man, here we go again with this antagonism, this desire to create friction, to get it on video, and to make everybody fight again over things that are not really germane to life. Here's a situation where you have these antagonistic people, and I guarantee you that there'll be a portion of this audience that sees this and go, well, I'm on the same exact page with him. But you haven't been to Dearborn yet. We're going to Dearborn. You want to go with us, Jake?
Sure.
We're going to go to Dearborn here, but we're going to go to Dearborn before too long, and we're going to walk around, and we're just going to get commentary from people. We're not going to instigate anything. We're going to see what society looks like there. I have a friend that travels Dearborn. I think he lives in Dearborn, but I know he travels Dearborn, and he said, Rob, what you see on Fox News is not Dearborn. That is just BS. And so I want to see it for myself. I want to find out whether it's true or not. So I'll go to Dearborn. He says that the Muslim community has assimilated beautifully, that they have all kinds of Islamic culture there.
That's true.
That the people in Dearborn actually like. They're not really causing any crime. There's not much going on there. It's just a peaceful society. But because they're Muslim and because Fox News has made everybody hate Muslims forever and hate Islam, right? Again, that's for God to decide, not me. So long as they're not hurting me. And then you see what goes on in Fox News, and then everybody has this impression that there's all this turmoil going on in Dearborn because they have these instigators like Jake Lang. So that's what my impression is. I'll go there and see it for myself. If you want to come, I know Isaiah and I are going to go up there here
Absolutely.
before too long, and we'll just we'll do some live streaming and reporting from Dearborn and see what the culture's like. I think that's
Absolutely.
fair. Yeah. Right. And then if it is what they say it is, we'll report it. I don't have any agenda when I go there other than.
Do you know how long
it is? What they say it is. We may not come back.
I will come back.
Do you know how long Dearborn, Michigan has had a Muslim population?
For a long time. I mean, when
they've had a Muslim population since 1920, and I've done my research, and it all really began when Henry Ford had his the plan, and was bringing in jobs, and it was basically bringing all the Muslims back in the 1920s, because they were looking for jobs, and so this really began in the 1920s, and they've had a Muslim population ever since.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's been a long time. So this is not a new problem.
See, I was in Dearborn, Michigan. I had an account up there. This would have been in the late 90s. I don't even remember seeing a Muslim population up there. I was up there for a day or two, but I thought I would, I was thinking, I would have remembered that, if there was something out of the ordinary, if there was Muslim people walking around, I probably wouldn't have noticed, but I didn't see any cultural differences. I didn't see anything that was out of control. And I know that rubs people wrong. Have you noticed that, Jake? It feels like you're swimming upstream if you say that Muslims aren't here to destroy America. There might be a faction, right? Yeah. That's why I said there might be.
I've had all these accounts in my feed in the past 24 hours. Like I'm calling this out as a psyop. This is meant to distract us and keep us in like a angry, fearful mindset. And I have all these crazy accounts saying I should be deported and I'm a traitor. And it's just absolutely ridiculous.
I saw the same thing. All right, let's play this. This is where is it? Number 6. This guy's name is Jake Long. So what you're going to see is probably a city council meeting. This Jake Long comes in. It looks like he's got a
military outfit.
Yeah, he wears the bulletproof vest. Right.
Who is it? Do you guys know who he is?
Yeah, so Jake Lang is a January 6th prisoner. He went to prison for January 6th. Somehow, while he's in prison, he's able to record these videos and put them out and different things while he's in prison. So that's his whole shtick, is that he was a J6 political prisoner, right? And now he's fighting for American freedoms. If you listen to him, Rob, he sounds exactly like President Trump. He borrowed President Trump's delivery style. And so when he talks normally to people, but then once he starts doing his preaching, basically kind of like what I'll call it, right? His preaching on the street, he goes into like a Trump mode where he's he's using the same hand gestures. He's using the terminology, which is very interesting. He's trying to sensationalize.
It's very inorganic. Yeah.
And he, the other thing the reason I was saying Jake's funny videos he's sending me is, a video that circulates a lot, or a picture that circulates a lot of Jake Lang, is a picture of him kissing the Western Wall while he's wearing a yarmulke. And he's
way.
He's Jewish.
Oh yeah, he's Jewish. His mom's, his mom's Jewish. He talks about it openly, so it's not.
I just retweeted it on my feed on my X page if you want to pull it up.
Yeah. Oh, I got it right here. I'll pull it up here. It's
unbelievable.
So I'll show this really quick, just as a quick preview, just so we can see who this guy is, since you're not familiar with him, Rob.
But, I think I've heard the name, but I don't know anything.
I've heard the name. I've seen his videos going around the past year for sure.
Yeah. So this is him.
Unbelievable.
That was just probably a few years ago, and he doesn't have the same haircut. Yeah,
That looks
he's more like a white nationalist kind of haircut now.
I don't know that I've ever seen an X-rated kissing of a wall, but there was an X-rated kissing of a wall. Looks like he fell in love with it.
Parents, put your kids in the other room.
He looks, that's a better kiss than Josh Hawley gave to his wife, right?
Do I see tongue? Do I see tongue on the wall?
Oh, man.
Yeah, so since you weren't super familiar, I think it's definitely good context just to know where he's coming from. You know what I mean?
Well, it fits into the narrative we started with.
Exactly.
This is what I believe is happening, and I think I can demonstrate it over time to where people will begin to see it if they pay attention. I really believe that what we're witnessing is a takedown of the American Constitution within our country. I think there's a war on freedom and liberty in this country, and it's being done in incremental levels to take away your freedom. And then you say, well, how are they doing it on a mass scale? And if you look at how they're doing it on a mass scale, who controls the media? I'll let everybody figure that out, right? Who's controlling the message? Who's controlling the banks? Who's controlling the money? And then who is the protagonist? Who is it? Yeah. It's always radical Islam, right? We got to worry about Mamdani. AOC is the enemy. Dearborn, Michigan is the enemy. And they were like, well,
boogeymen.
Yeah, they're boogie, but who's allowing it? Nobody even says, well, how did this happen? But if you look at how it happens, the call to prayer in Minneapolis, we reported on that the other day. So Minneapolis now has the Islamic call to prayer 5 times a day in downtown Minneapolis, where I used to live. And then the person that sent it to me, I said, well, it's a Jewish mayor in Minneapolis who did this, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's crickets. They don't want to hear that. Mm-hmm. They don't want to hear that that's where this originates from. So you have the Jewish mayor, and then you have the Muslim call to prayer, and everybody goes, I don't see any connection there, Rob. Okay, well, I do. I see a connection.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. You want to know what else I just uncovered last night, Rob, is that with the Rothschilds family. So the Rothschilds were the first Jewish person to serve in Parliament in England back in the day, in like the late 1700s, early 1800s. So first Jewish person was a Rothschild, and they had to swear on a Christian Bible. And so the first thing that the Rothschild got done is that they don't have to swear on the Christian Bible anymore, so that the Jewish people can join Parliament and not have to swear on the Christian Bible. And so I'm finding a lot of interesting things in this kind of historical accounts of, Zionism or Jewish supremacy, right, dating back into England. And a lot of things we're seeing now happening in the American political system were happening back then in the early 1800s. And it's exactly what the Rothschilds did to take over Britain, to push Zionism, and then eventually get the state of Israel started. So it's a lot of interesting stuff that's basically repeating itself from what happened in England. It's repeating itself now in America as the new power, right?
Fascinating.
Very,
and then Kurt, one of our listeners, says Jake Lang has been on Dan and Drew's morning show a couple of times, called from prison.
I did not know that.
I think that I talked to his mother. Now that that's been said, I think when I first got to the station, January 6th was a big topic of conversation. And I think that Tracy gave me the number to have him on the show. I think I talked to his mother, as a matter of fact, now that I think about it. I'll have to go back and try to figure out what was going on there. But now I was thinking, where did I hear that name before? Yep. That's probably where I heard it from. All right, let's play this. So this is Jake Lang, January 6er, kissing the wall. I think it fits into our narrative that these are antagonists, and I think something's going on here. Check this out.
Mm-hmm.
There's no books or props allowed, so you either put it
No
down.
Qurans in Dearborn?
You've got 1 second.
That's a
and you're
violation
gonna
of
do what you want to do.
I was told
Put them
that.
down, or you're gonna be, there's no books, no paraphernalia. That's the council rule.
Very polished, by the way.
Let's go.
For 3 years straight, the #1 name in the country of England for newborn babies is Muhammad. Tell me that white Christians are not being invaded. How can you lie to our faces with your taqiyya? This is an invasion on all fronts. Our people are being pushed out of the workplace. We're being pushed out of city councils. That smug face of the taqiyya Muslims needs to be wiped off these people's faces. These people are looking to destroy us. These people are looking to outbreed us. The Muslims have not come here to assimilate. They have come here to steal the wealth of this land, to rape our women. What about the 250,000 women in England that were raped by Pakistani Muslims, and they got little slaps on the wrist from the woke democratic regime? The Muslims are being used by the Democrats to instill socialism in America. We know it. Look at all of your top Muslim leaders. They all pander to homosexuality, the trans agenda, and to socialism. You're fake Muslims. You're just using the Democrats, these woke liberal idiots, the women in New York, to gain power. And once the Muslims have power in this country, then they will start throwing the homosexuals off the roofs, just like they do in Palestine. You guys all cry about Palestine. Try being a white Christian man preaching the word of God in Palestine. Guess what might happen to you? The same thing that happened to me here in Dearborn, Michigan. You will be stoned for saying the name of Jesus Christ in Palestine, in Afghanistan, in Yemen, in Iraq. Jesus Christ is outlawed in those countries, and we will stand. The crusade has begun. Your time in this country is running short. The time of stealing from the Detroit black Christian Americans is over. It's over. Muslims go home before we send you home. We have cruise ships, we have planes, we have trains, and we're going to pack them out with all of the Arabs. You have to go home. We don't want you here. Our founding fathers gave this country to their posterity. White Christians, and they brought along with them their black friends, and now we're here to reclaim America for the blacks and the white people and the Spanish. We will not allow these third world mongrels to run roughshod over us without a fight. The body of Christ is one. If you are in Christ, you are my brother. If you stand against Islam, you are my brother. If you are willing to stand up and take this country back, you are my brother. Join the crusades and extricate this filth from our country. We will have our way. Come blood or sweat, we will have our way. This is a Christian land. Christ is King. Christ is King. Christ is King. Christ is King.
Look at this. Christ
is King. Christ is King. Enough is enough. America, stand north. Stop. The Muslims conquering our nation. Through hell or high water, we will reclaim our great nation. That man has rape charges.
Come on now. Jake's microphone's off. Hang on, Jake. There you go. There you go.
That's so performative.
It is
so performative. Yeah, and nothing what he says is Christian. What he reminds me of, if you know your history, your Nazi history, do you guys know who Horst Wessel was?
Who?
Horst Wessel. So he was this young. He was a young Nazi brown shirt in the early Nazi days. There was a beer hall push, and he was killed. And afterwards, the Nazi Party kind of turned him into like a young, like martyr, like symbol in the Nazi Party. And I think that's what he's trying to be. He's trying to get himself martyred, so he'll be turned into some sort of like hero.
Interesting concept.
That's what I think. Yeah,
but it does look, to the bigger picture, it looks very performative to me. Listen.
Oh, yeah.
I just tell people when you watch the experts on television, or you watch these people that go into the Senate and they have this incredible rhetoric, and they look right into the camera and they sound so eloquent and so beautiful. It's not easy. It's not easy. I do this for a living. I do 3 hours of live, we'll call it television at this point because I'm on camera, 3 hours of live television 5 days a week. And when I want to put out something on social media, when I got just the camera and me, Jake, I might take 25 takes to get it right, because you want it right. Then you see a guy like Josh Hawley and some of these people in the Senate or the House, and they give these speeches, and they're so eloquent and they're so beautifully like, well, that must take a lot of practice. I thought you were back there studying the law and making sure all of our the laws are being followed and legislation is good for the American people. How do you become a television actor so easily? How do you become so good at it? It's not easy to do.
Train.
Right? It's amazing. And then they go on Fox News. Just think to yourself, let's say that you're sitting in your home right now and you don't have a lot of television experience. And somebody calls you up and says, I want you on a 12-minute segment on Fox News tomorrow, and we're going to talk about X. You'd be a nervous wreck. You'd be, oh my God, I'm going to have to go on Fox News. How's my hair look?
Practice, yeah.
Right. And I start mumbling and stumbling because I'm nervous, because you're in front of a camera. Have you noticed that the people in the Republican Party that go on Fox News don't skip a beat? It's almost like it's a choreographed and perfect. And the same thing with CNN with the Democrats. They're all perfect. How can that possibly be? That's not natural for people to have that kind of television poise, if you will. It's just not natural to do that unless you practice it.
Yeah, when you look at like Jake Lang's like his posture, he has a very strong posture and a certain look. Like it's so orchestrated.
You said performative. I thought that was the perfect word.
Yeah, he has a Quran ready to rip the pages out. Like, come on.
Yep.
Yeah. Why is he wearing khaki pants that look like military pants? He's wearing
that's something else I've noticed is that a lot of these accounts that are promoting him, what's going on. I've shared these accounts on my page to bring notice to it, but these accounts are promoting the Patriot Front, and obviously they are just feds. They wear the same exact clothes like they've never been worn ever. The khaki pants, yeah, they are feds.
That's what I think it is too. And first time I really noticed that happening was on January the 6th. So I went to that January 6th thing, and I went there as a journalist. If everybody goes, "Oh my God, Rob, you're an insurrectionist. You were led by a guy dressed up as a Viking," and the whole thing. No. I was doing a podcast at the time. Donald Trump said it was going to be wild. He said there's going to be 1 million people there. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go check that out. I'm going to report on it. So when I went there, I started to notice what was happening down and around the Capitol. And I started seeing a lot of people that just didn't quite feel right to me on the walk up. I didn't really say a ton about it. It's just, it didn't feel right because it looked like what we had described as Antifa. Remember the Antifa days? I was in Seattle the first time I ever saw Antifa. I was walking back to my hotel. They were walking up a side street and they were banging on drums and they were walking up in military formation. I remember I was with this guy named Scott Reese, and I go, "Hey man, I want to check this out." He goes, No, he was panicked. He freaked out. These people are walking up the streets like 10 o'clock at night, and he panicked. And I said, okay, no, calm down. So I walked him up to, we were staying at the Marriott Hotel. I walk him into the Marriott Hotel, and as soon as he gets into the elevator, I get out and I walk back because I want to see these people that were coming up the street. I stand there as they walk by beating on these drums, and they're all like 25 to 30, 35-year-old white kids. It did not look like they were in great shape. It didn't look like they were any kind of an organization. It looked like BS to scare people, which is exactly what was happening. Same thing happened in Georgia. We went to Georgia, my wife and I, and we're walking by this, maybe there's like 20 guys there, Jake, and they're all in military fatigue with these big guns over their arms.
Right.
My wife goes, "What is that?" And I said, "These are these Antifa characters." And I just walked up and we're walking in front of them. My wife was a little spooked, right? Because you got 20 guys that are all dressed in black. They got masks over their face and they got guns. And as I'm walking by, you can kind of just see the build of people. They look like people that you would have just taken off the street. Some were big, some were small. They didn't look like they were any kind of regiment of sorts. And as we walked by, I kind of spooked my wife, and I said, "I think these guys are here just to intimidate me. I don't know really what they're here to do, other than intimidate people." So I got to look at what their vibe was. And then on January 6th, you saw the same kind of characters out there. And nobody, you got to think of all the people that watched that event of January 6th take place on television. They really believed that there was an insurrection, that that 1 million people that were at a rally, somehow there was an offshoot of about 1,000 people that were at the Capitol at the exact same time, and that they were trying to create an insurrection. And
I'm noticing these same patterns. Like when I was looking at some of this footage from yesterday and the day before out of Dearborn, looking at these guys, they had like these perfect brand new American flags, like crisp, and then they're wearing these khakis. And there was just one guy in the footage. He was wearing like a Charlie Kirk shirt. But these guys are not like Trump supporters. They're like Patriot Front, like white supremacists, like foreigners, bad, like low IQ kind of rhetoric, basically. And I noticed the same thing. It reminds me of what we saw from on the ground on January 6th. And Jake Lang, I have to look more into his story, but evidently he was charged with assaulting police officers and kind of like charging into the Capitol. And those kinds of actors, I think they were feds, and then everyone else went in, because they felt like they were being welcomed in, and they didn't do anything wrong. They weren't fighting cops or causing violence or anything, and they were trapped. And so most of the January 6ers were innocent, but there was a few of them that were obviously like feds that were instigating it.
Right, and it's like controlling both sides of the argument, right? You have most people that watched January 6th from their television sets were horrified, thinking there was an insurrection. And when I got home, people were like, "You were there? Oh my God, you were there! You were a part of that." People were upset with me, and I said, "There was no insurrection happening there." They said, "What do you mean? They were tearing down the walls. Didn't you see all the destruction?" I said very calmly, I said, "Think about it for a second. I want you to calm down, take your emotion out, all the stuff that you saw on CNN and Fox News. Just hang on for a second. Do you think if there was an organized insurrection of the United States Capitol, the people coming wouldn't have brought weapons? Is this what you're, hang on. You're telling me that in your mind, you believe that 1 million people went to Washington, D.C. to overthrow the government, marched through the Capitol, and nobody brought a weapon?
There was not a single weapon.
Not one weapon.
Not a single firearm.
I mean, how does anybody even make sense of that? How do my liberal...
I've never seen an insurrection without guns. You know?
That's just ridiculous. I mean, we're the most armed society in the world. If they were there to overthrow the government, they would have overthrown the government. They were there. The people that were beating up and doing all the stuff out front, in my humble opinion.
Well, that was earlier on, and then everyone else joined from the Trump rally across the city, and they saw everyone going into the Capitol, and they thought, oh, we can go into the Capitol. And they were trapped because all the barricades were gone.
That's right. All the barricades were gone. That's exactly what happened. And I don't know why people don't have that, when they think about it for a second, they don't go, you're right, Rob. An unarmed insurrection led by a guy dressed up as a Viking doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I would think that if you're trying to overthrow the Capitol and all these people were crazy lunatics that were trying to take out our politicians, wouldn't they have brought some weapons with them in America?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on. It's ridiculous. And this is exactly what it looks like to me. These look like little games people play. That's what I think is going on there. Right. Anything else, Jake, that you see going on?
I wanted to ask you guys about the Southern Poverty Law Center. Do you know about this situation from back in April?
What's that?
So the federal grand jury charged Southern Poverty Law Center for wire fraud, false statements, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Now, scroll down here. Check this out, Rob. Ready? Between 2014 and 2023, the SPLC secretly funneled more than $3 million in donated funds to individuals who are associated with various violent extremist groups, including the Ku Klux Klan, Aryan Nations, and the National Socialist Party of America, which is also known as the American Nazi Party.
Now, hang on here. So the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is primarily viewed as a far-left operation,
Far left, yes,
was funneling millions of dollars to groups, the Ku Klux Klan, Aryan Nations, and the National Socialist Party of America, which is the Nazi Party. This is this is what's been,
so that is like literally a perfect example of controlled opposition.
Yes,
exactly.
It's controlled opposition,
and
creating a problem that they're claiming that they're the answer to.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Here, I'll read all the names. Listen to this, Rob, because I got all the names in front of me. So the KKK, United Klans of America, Unite the Right, National Alliance, which is a neo-Nazi group, the Nationalist Socialist Movement, Aryan Nations affiliated with Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club, the American Nazi Party, like we just said, and then American Front, which sounds a lot like Patriot Front.
Fascinating.
Those are all the groups that they funded that are far-right extremist groups that the far-left Southern Poverty...
Literally out of a comedy, like the Judean People's Front out of Monty Python.
Well, yeah. Does it fall into the traditional strategy, though? So if you just take this and you say, okay, wait a minute. Southern Poverty Law Center. Now, if people don't know Southern Poverty Law Center, this is something that Glenn Beck, when he was on Fox News and he was doing his chalkboard and everything, he'd always bring up the Southern Poverty Law Center as a far-left legal organization to take out and to cause trouble for conservatives and, what we would call conservative patriots, right? So that was his kind of take on it. So if this is true, that they're funding the far right at the same time they're a legal operation for the far left, wouldn't it fit into the way the Democrats and the Republicans are working together? Wouldn't it be the same organizations like Zionism and when I call it radical Zionism and radical Islam kind of working together? I was seeing Curtin, he said, I don't think
exactly what's happening.
Yeah, and he said, I don't think these people are friends, talking about the radical Islam. I don't either.
Definitely not,
Yeah, I don't either. I don't think that they're our friends either. I'm just saying that if you're looking, if you have big money behind you and you can create a visual that they can throw out onto the media of brown people that are considered to be terrorists, because that's the way they are portrayed in all of our movies. And then you have the good guys, the people from the Holocaust, the Zionists, right? The Zionists and the big Jewish donor money. And you really want to overtake America. Wouldn't you be able to say, okay, we control the media. We'll create this group over here that are terrorists in the Middle East. We'll put them on our television sets. We'll make all the movies. We'll make them the demons of the world. Then we'll invite them through Alejandro Mayorkas, another Jew, into our society. Then we'll have Ilhan Omar. She'll be the cover person for the Congress. And then we'll tell people that we're being overtaken by radical Islam, that we obviously allowed to happen. I mean, everybody has to understand that we allowed that. It couldn't happen unless it was
Yeah, so who let them in? That's the question. So they're just redirecting, your anger at like a group of people when your anger should be like, who let these people in the first place? I was actually looking into it, and Texas actually funneled $13 million to Muslim organizations over like 10 years. I shared the article on my page, but Abbott was part of the problem, and there was like a complete explosion of like mosques like being built in Texas under Greg Abbott over the past like 10 years.
That's right.
So this has been happening under both sides. Like, if you want to blame someone, blame Lyndon Johnson for signing the Hart-Keller Act, which pretty much paved the way for all the third world immigration that we're getting. And so blame Lyndon Johnson, blame the presidents. Like, I do my research. A lot of Muslim migration to the United States happened under Jimmy Carter. It also happened under Ronald Reagan as well. It happened under George H.W. Bush and George Bush Jr. And it also happened, there was a lot of Muslim immigration under Obama and Biden as well. And so this is really both parties, like the Bushes, Obamas, this is happening under both sides, really, and you should be blaming your politicians.
What happens, Jake, is that we go and we start a war in a country like Afghanistan, and then we bomb them to smithereens. And we for Israel, right? And we bomb them to smithereens, and we destroy their homes. And we're just like, hey, sorry, you can't live there anymore. You know what? Actually, we got a dozen American cities we can just ship you guys back to, and we'll give you guys some sort of status. We'll get you some money every month. You'll be taken care of. Don't worry. And that's exactly what happens. Is we go bomb them, fight them, the bad brown people, right? And then we bring them back here, which is
the Muslims are the problem, and so it's just a complete distraction. They're distracting our anger and directing into whatever they want it to be, and they just want us to be divided against each other. Because if you go back to 2024, the mayor of Dearborn Heights, not exactly Dearborn, but Dearborn Heights, actually publicly endorsed Donald Trump. Isn't that crazy?
Really? Who else?
I shared that on my feed too on X. But yeah, the mayor of Dearborn Heights endorsed Trump because he was proposing a peace plan in Gaza. So
Louis Farrakhan was a Trump guy.
I think so. Yeah,
he was.
Most Muslims are going to be conservatives.
They are conservative. Yeah, that's true.
What do you think, Jake? Do you think that do you see this as a growing problem? Because one of the big arguments is they're going to outbreed us. They're going to have 10 babies. We're going to have one. They're going to outbreed us, and ultimately, this is going to be an Islamic nation just purely on numbers. Is that something that you see as being realistic? Is this something that is being organized, strategized against? Because again, that may be very possible. Again, my argument isn't that radical Islam is not a problem. My argument is how did radical Islam get into the interior of this country? That's the question we should be asking.
So it can definitely be. I absolutely recognize it. It's absolutely a problem if you let in, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people of a foreign country with fundamentally different values in your country. That's detrimental. I absolutely agree with that.
Agree.
But at the same time, who caused that problem, and why are they distracting us with the people themselves when they were just kind of? It's really not their fault, really. And yes, radical Islam is a problem, and letting in but they're just one people group. Like they're we've been letting in people like Africans and a lot of Indians and Central Americans and Mexicans. Like we've let in a lot of different people groups, and Muslims are just one group. But yes, they can be a threat. But I don't see it really happening. Like, has there been a single city like that has implemented Sharia law? No. It's just kind of like a manufactured problem.
Right, and then they make laws against it, right? I think Nick Schroer is the one who, for the law in the state of Missouri, no Sharia law, and everybody cheered that on. And I'm like, is there Sharia gone? Is there something I don't recognize going on in Missouri? Or is this something?
If we had like 10 or 20 million Muslims in our country, I'd be concerned. But we don't have 10 or 20 million Muslims in our country, and they're mostly Westernized too. Yeah, there's some bad apples, but I haven't really seen many Islamic attacks in the past few years.
Guys beyond your years. That's exactly what I was telling my dad. Because we were Fox News viewers. We fell into it just like everybody else did. And I'm like, I'm scared of Muslims all of a sudden. And when I'm on a plane, if somebody has got Muslim gear on, I'm starting to panic. And this went on for a long time. And I was telling him, I was having a conversation with my dad not too long ago, and he has this young Muslim girl that works at his where he's at. And he loves her. He thinks she's the greatest thing. He says she's a great worker. She's funny. She's completely different than what his impression were. Because if you don't know any Muslims, you have this impression of them. And I would agree with you, Jake. A lot of Muslims are Westernized. That's just the thing. Right. Here, they want this culture. They want to be here. And then you have a fraction that hate America, and they want to hurt Americans, and they want to destroy our society.
And that's absolutely a problem. If there's Muslims like that and they're not citizens, they should absolutely be deported.
Absolutely. And
if they did get a path to citizenship, that should be revoked. If they're radical and they hate America and they want to do like terrorist attacks, deport them. But not every one of them is a problem. It's like going down in North St. Louis, going down to Martin Luther King Boulevard and yelling the N-word and saying that they all need to go back to Africa. Like, it makes no sense. It's like low IQ racism.
That's a good
low IQ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
Jake Lang goes to Dearborn, Michigan, slapping a Quran with bacon, and he says they're attacking me for saying Christ is king. It's what?
I wonder why.
I wonder why.
They're waving bacon in their face. I mean, that's going to piss them off.
Yeah.
And then it creates like an illusion like Muslims are taking over and they're getting violent, and he's literally causing the problem. It's just ridiculous. And I think, unfortunately, conservatives are falling for it. And I don't want to see them fall for it. I'm not saying Islam is not a problem, that radical Muslims aren't a problem, or mass third world immigration isn't a problem. But this is kind of they're trying to redirect our anger into something when the elites themselves are the problem that caused this. So
it's the grand distraction. Where's my thing? Let me get this for you guys real fast here. Where am I going with this? You know where I'm going, don't you, Isaiah? Where's my music?
I think Strange Magic.
I think it's this one here.
For we are.
No, I know where it's at. Here we go.
Oh yeah.
Oh, welcome to the Grand Illusion. It's the illusion. It's the. I do believe that ultimately the way our society is being run, we talk about it all the time. And Jake, I think you see it pretty good. We have a lot of long talks, but I got to. You're one of these people that I think sees the world because it's odd. You're a Christian, right? You're a Bible reading Christian. Isaiah is a Bible reading Christian with a Jewish ancestry. I'm a Christian. And we see the world completely different than the what I would say the Fox News Christian agenda, right? I see it through a completely different lens. I see the manipulation going on, and I don't like the manipulation. And then you have people on the other side that I would consider allies of ours who see that manipulation as necessary, right? Because that's what the Donald Trump thing is, that everything that he's doing is necessary because he can't just shoot straight with us and tell us what's going on and how we need to behave in our lives in order to move forward. It's this Machiavellian, where we got to do this over here and that over there. And I don't even know who's right. I just know that I don't want to be manipulated for anybody's political gain. That's just the way I see it. I think that
you just got to look at who's trying to manipulate you. And this is just unfortunate that all this is happening. All this social discord is happening under Trump. I just didn't expect this kind of stuff, especially the anti-Muslim stuff, because in 2024, again, I was watching that rally, and the mayor of Dearborn Heights, a Muslim, came out and endorsed Trump and said, "I fully support him. He's going to bring peace to the Middle East." And look where we're at now. It's just really disappointing. I didn't.
What do you think's going to happen in the midterms, Jake?
Huh?
What do you think's going to happen in the midterms? I have a sneaky suspicion that the Republicans are in big trouble.
I think they're in big trouble.
Yeah, and again, I don't say this from the sense that there's separation between the Republicans and the Democrats. I say that because when there's a perception that one side wins or one side loses, I think most of politics is all perception. I think it's all perception, quite honestly. If the Democrats are to take over and they say they want transgenderism for 8-year-olds, if they say they want to expand the welfare state, if they say they want to open the borders again, the argument will be that that's what we all voted for, right? That's the vote. What is it? Elections have consequences. And I'm like, I know, but can't you clean up the election so that I can actually handle the consequences? Because if my countrymen vote for whatever they're voting for, I'm willing to live with it. What I'm not willing to live with is a two-party system that's really, really won because of money that controls both of those apparatuses. And then they do whatever they want while we fight each other over problems that they caused in the first place. That's where.
Or maybe going to war with Iran and covering up the Epstein files is not a good idea. The biggest mistake Trump made was saying we should move on from the Epstein files, and he unfortunately just handed that issue to the Democrats. He just handed them the upper hand on the Epstein files on a silver platter. And then the Iran war, this has just been it's been disastrous. It's affecting the economy. It's affecting gas prices, and people are genuinely pissed. Even hardcore Trump supporters, including myself. Like, I'm just like, what the heck is going on? If it continues in this direction, it's not going to be good for Trump, and I don't want that. But Trump is kind of shooting himself in the foot.
That's kind of how I see it too. And I just wonder if there is Do you think that he has just changed his opinion? Because I don't know if you heard the show where Isaiah and I went through. Was it 17? Isaiah went through 17 things that he said in 2016,
Yeah, I
and
think
now
so.
he's speaking out the opposite
Mhm.
of. If you have 17 major issues that you run on to be president, and then you take the opposite version 10 years later, I think it has to draw the attention of people. And you say, well, wait a minute, what are we doing here? I'll support you, but you got to explain to me why you've changed your opinion. And then I talk to people that say, Rob, it's he's got to do it this way. He's got to keep his enemies close and his friends, that whole thing. It's hard for me to understand what's going on anymore, which I find very disappointing because I thought we had a clear path of getting rid of the swamp. We were going to clean up our borders. We were going to return the schools to local. We were going to out the people that were behind the COVID con job.
Right, retribution. Obama, arresting Obama, Clinton,
All
all
the Obama people that were manufacturing evidence against Donald Trump, and really, it really fell down into the lap of the people that were supporting him. Right, we're all the ones that took the problems for it because it separated our families and friends. And yet, I don't see anything of that nature actually taking shape that will benefit me and my family yet. I hope this happens, and I hope that I end up saying.
I hope it happens too. I'm praying for it every day.
But what happens in the midterms if he loses? At that point, it's over, right? If we lose the midterms, it's over.
Unless there's some 5D chess to all of this, and he doesn't need Congress or anything, then it's over.
Isaiah, what do you think is going to happen? I think they're in trouble in the midterms. I think.
Yeah, I think that either one of two things happens. Exactly what we just said is going to happen, and I don't know if this is going to happen. This might happen after the midterms, but I just really feel like, all this stuff with JD Vance, you see a lot more of JD Vance nowadays. And I think they're really just positioning him to be this I'm not, I don't support Israel 100% kind of guy, and he's going to try to be this positioned as this new presidential candidate and leader of the Republican Party, of someone who's, I'll fight Israel. I'm not going to just listen to whatever they do. And I think that it's going to reignite some belief in the Republican Party, not in a vast way, but I think that's what they're going to try to do, to use this anti-Muslim rhetoric and the fact that, hey, we're not as supportive of Israel as we were in the past, right? And see, Netanyahu said we need to stop giving so much aid, right? I don't know. I just see all these things happening, and it's like, man, this just seems too coincidental, I guess you could say.
Scripted?
Yeah, scripted, right? And that's why I say, coincidental with air quotes, kind of, right? And I just think that if the Republicans are destroyed in the midterms, that's a guarantee that would probably happen, something like that. But I don't think they're going to win. I don't think they hold power still after the midterms, especially after seeing folks like El Said come out. This guy who's supposed to be this, they're painting him as this far left, crazy lunatic, Muslim guy, right? But he comes out and he says, "Hey, my Jewish friends, I love you. Don't be scared. I'm not against you," right? And so that's not good for the Republican Party. You know what I mean?
Like Tommy. He's always surrounded by Jews. You're like,
exactly.
Well, you guys were the enemies of the Jews.
And so
they try to cast him as like a radical Muslim.
Yeah, and that's not good for the Republican Party, because people like that are not afraid to come out and tell you their real views. You know what I mean? And they have the momentum as far as social media goes too. You look at, man, I'm a marketing guy, right? So many Democrat socialist candidates that have amazing marketing. And that's what, as we've seen with a lot of elections, marketing is what gets people to vote, unfortunately, because they don't really do the research. And so whoever's got the best marketing and the most money is going to win. But I think that we're seeing the tides turn on the most money isn't necessarily who's going to win anymore. I think we're showing that, hey, if we can get the word out far enough and wide enough using these platforms where all these young people are, more young people are waking up, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be the revolution, is when the boomers die off and the young people are in charge. That will be the real revolution.
Just look at Florida with Fishback and the results. Unfortunately, came in third place, but if you look at the college precincts where the college voters voted, it was like 25-1 Fishback over Byron Donalds, and then the boomers, they just overwhelmingly voted for Byron. There was such a divide.
Nick Fuentes,
on the real issues. He was addressing.
Nick Fuentes was celebrating, and he's like, "Think about that. There's 170,000 groypers, which is the term that he calls his followers. He's like, there's 170,000 groypers in Florida, right? But that's a silly way to say it, but it puts it in perspective that there's 170,000 young men who are sick of what's going on, are sick
The
of sending
establishment
money to
Republican
Israel.
Party. Yeah, they're
They're
sick of
sick
it.
of the establishment,
I'm
and
sick
they're
of it
ready to
too.
take over the Republican Party. I think you're going to see that nationwide. I don't think that's just going to be Florida. I think that's going to happen nationwide. And I think these midterms are going to be something that forces that. And even with, I know I've talked a lot about this, but just this is all the things that are on my mind with Tucker Carlson and the Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Joe Kent, and, there's rumors of these new parties. I don't know if they're going to make a new party or if they're going to
I
try
don't think a new party is the
they're
answer.
going to try to take over the Republican Party is what I think they're really going to try to do.
We have to take back the Republican Party.
Yeah.
That's the only way. We're too
Because of what Jake just said, with all those people in Florida, all the young people, I think they see that it's possible now. You know what I'm saying, Rob? Like, it wasn't possible with the Fox News crowd, but it's possible now with people like Jake and I.
I'm for making parties illegal.
That's my soapbox for today.
I'm thinking parties should be illegal. You should have no party affiliation. We should just vote. And that would get rid of the Milli Vanilli government. This is it.
Girl, you know it's true.
Yes, it's so true. Exactly.
Anybody remember that one? Where's my audience back there? That is Milli Vanilli. Remember? Do you know who Milli Vanilli is, Jake?
No.
Okay, so Milli Vanilli, when I was a kid, when I was like in my early 20s, there was a group called Milli Vanilli, and in the back in those days, pop music was was all the thing. That's what people listened to. So you go to the nightclubs, it was Milli Vanilli. Milli Vanilli was they were shown on all the music videos, which everybody was watching in the day, and it was two black guys, attractive black guys that had the dreadlocks, and they would dance around to these songs. Turns out that they win all these awards for their great music, this, and that, and the other. They're taking their awards. And then it comes out that they weren't singing the songs. They were lip syncing to somebody else. So they were just front people for the songs. And then their group goes to hell and nobody ever hears of them anymore. And this was one of their songs. So from now on, I got this down. So whenever I talk about the fake government, the Milli Vanilli government, I'm going to hit it with,
girl, you know it's true.
That was one of their songs.
Central casting.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
casting.
it.
Yeah.
One more time.
Girl, you know it's true.
I crack myself up. If nobody else likes it, I think it's funny. All right.
That's
Great
a fact.
do you really want to go to Dearborn with us? Because I made some flight reservations last night. I have not booked Dearborn yet, but I'm going to. What I want to do in Dearborn is just simply go out there, get into downtown, go around for maybe a full day from 8 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Talk to people in the community, get some videos, and just get a vibe for the environment in Dearborn, Michigan, because what I see on television makes me think that I'd be walking into Baghdad, and I don't know that that's true. That is not what I'm hearing. I don't hear that because you got to remember, I'm in the shoe business, and we travel to every town in America, and I know a lot of people that cover Michigan, and they've been in Dearborn many times, and they say, Rob, it's just not the way the society.
I've been down to Ferguson when I was a teenager. My sister actually took me down to Ferguson. We actually saw the spot where George Floyd was killed. No, that wasn't George Floyd. That was Michael Brown.
I was there.
You were?
I got off a flight, and it was on my radio, and I was right there, and I grew up in that area. So I said, I'm gonna go there and check this out. So I had to drive like 4 or 5 blocks away, watch all the nonsense that was going on. That I was reporting on that. Was I reporting on it or just telling friends? I can't remember the time frame of it all. That they were paid protesters.
Yeah.
And then there came out videos later on where these people are saying, hey, we were paid to protest. Where's our money?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I was actually there because the first round of riots was right after he was killed. And then there was a second round in 2015 surrounding, I guess, the cop that was being charged or something. And there was a second round of riots. And before that second round of riots actually went down, and I visited the gas station that Michael Brown went to before he was killed, and I talked to some people, and they seemed like interesting, nice people. But I actually went down there and saw this, the gas station that they burnt to the ground and everything.
The whole thing was very strange, very, very strange. And I do Bible study over in Ferguson. One of my good friends, Steve Musenfector, he still lives in Ferguson. We used to play baseball in Ferguson. That was my stomping grounds growing up, and it's just basically 50-50 white and black. Most of the society now, as I drive through it, is an older white community and a little bit younger black community. And they seem to get along just fine. That's why the whole thing is so crazy about the Ferguson story. But anyway, that's all the time I got today. Jake, great to see you, my friend.
Thanks for having me on.
You're going to Dearborn with us, so don't back out now because
Let's do it.
We'll have a good time. Isaiah?
Yes.
Talk soon, Jake. Be good.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for coming on. What do we got tomorrow? I got a good one tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
We have Mark Mitchell coming in tomorrow from Rasmussen Reports. You may have seen him on. He went on with Alex Jones a bunch.
Mhm.
He was giving polling numbers. His polling numbers were very negative in response to Donald Trump. Donald Trump called him. He went to the White House, said, "This is what the numbers are showing." I used to play clips of him all the time. I used to cite his polling all the time. I absolutely can't wait to have him on. So we'll have Mark Mitchell on tomorrow. I think he's coming in at 10 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. I also think I have Robert Workman coming in. I may have a conflict. I might have to move times around, but tomorrow should be an absolutely outstanding show, as they all are, Isaiah.
Mhm.
They're all good.
Did you get G. Edward Griffin nailed down?
G. Edward Griffin is tomorrow at 2. I think what I'm
Okay.
going to do is tape that conversation and play him on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. But then we got G. Edward Griffin, one of my heroes. I mean, you talk about a kid in a candy store. Some very big interviews for me of people that I have not met yet that I'm very interested in hearing what they have to say. G. Edward Griffin he's the OG
Yeah.
of all of this. Here's
He
what
wrote The Creature from Jekyll Island, if you
That's
don't
right.
know.
He was the one that was interviewing Yuri Bezmenov, who I played on the show a million times. He said, when Marxism takes over your country, you won't even know that it's happening, number one. He said, and all the people that are fighting on behalf of the enemy of your society, they won't know that they've been overtaken until the boot of the state is actually on their neck. And he said, this is tried and true. It's been done a million times throughout history. This is how they do it. This is what's going to happen to America. This is happening to America. And he said that back in the 80s.
Hmm.
And he said, all of a sudden, you snap your fingers and all of a sudden it's gone. All your freedom and all that stuff that you thought was so wonderful, it just immediately in the snap of a finger, nobody's paying attention and it's gone. It's out of there. And that happens through infiltration. Basically what he said, it happens through infiltration. Anyway.
Check this out. While we were on, just came out 30 minutes ago. FBI raids home and seizes electronics of ex-rep Eric Swalwell in sexual assault probe.
Really?
Yeah. This just happened while we were on.
He's a weird character. Have you ever seen the one where Eric Swalwell, I think it was Nick Sordor, has got him in a hotel and he's 3 sheets to the wind. Swalwell is, and he gets him off of the elevator and he starts walking outside and asking him about, he'd made some rude comments about women and Sordor was chasing him down. It's a great video.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I got that kind of confrontation in me, but maybe I should get better at it. Cause boy, I did love watching it. It was fantastic.
Yeah. I think I think people, it's hard because the people that are serious, they don't take that stuff seriously. You know what I mean?
It's entertaining to watch, but it's
entertaining.
Silly.
It's like news, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's entertaining, but it's not, I guess it's not.
I'm too old to pull the pranks. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, that's a good
way. When I was
way.
younger, I could have done it and I would have had no problem with it. But, I'm 56 years old.
You're trying to just get to you're like, I just want
I don't know that I want to
answers,
play
all
games
right?
and pranks.
Yeah.
And all that sort of stuff. I do think that what will be interesting is DC asking people very legitimate, tough questions.
Oh, yeah.
Responses. I think that's going to blow people's minds because these people do not get asked difficult questions at all, ever.
Yeah.
And we're going to hit them with some very difficult questions. I cannot wait to see how they respond to it. And we'll be doing that in the end of September now, like the 3rd or 4th week of September.
Yeah, the last full week in September. I think there's like a half week after that. Something else I was going to say earlier too, Rob, is just, I know we're talking about radical Islam, radical Zionism. And I've always talked about how we look at it from our perspective and we look at it from the perspective that we've been fed always, but it's hard for us to take another person's perspective and look at it from their shoes. But that's something that you and I try to now in our life do.
Yep.
And something that opened my eyes a long time ago is where I started it just started tugging on my heartstrings, I guess you could say, is that in Israel, so we call it the Holocaust, right? Which is like the burning. That's what that comes from. That's the root, the etymology of where that word comes from. And in Israel, in Hebrew, they call it HaShoah, and it means the catastrophe, right? That's what the Holocaust is called. And so if you're talking about the Holocaust, they saw the HaShoah, right? HaShoah. And then what I found out from a Palestinian long ago is that it's the same name in Arabic for the founding of the state of Israel for the Palestinians. So it's not HaShoah. In Arabic, it's called the Nakba, but it's the same word. It's the catastrophe. So the same thing that the Jewish people use for the Holocaust, that's what the Palestinians call the founding of the state of Israel. That was their catastrophe.
Really?
Yeah. And so I think that, but I don't know what, that just tugged on my heartstrings because it's like, man, if that's what they really think about it, they must have been bad. You know what I mean? And they're not calling it that to equate it to the Holocaust. That's not what their purpose is, but that's just the terminology that they used for that day, as they call it, the Nakba. That's the day that, so, Israel Independence Day is what Israel calls it. The Palestinians call it Nakba.
Well,
And
check this
so
out.
yeah.
Let me see here.
It's just it's interesting when you take different perspectives. You know what I mean? It's like that's their Holocaust, which is just crazy to me.
I was just contacted. So I had this lady on my radio show. Her name is Dr. Mimi Syed.
Okay.
I don't remember if you've heard it, but she was she's an American doctor. She is not she's not Muslim. She went over into Gaza and worked in the hospitals over there. And then we had a Green Beret on. And what's interesting is these are two totally different people. They'd never heard of each other. They didn't know anything that's going on. The Green Beret went over there, and he went over there as a contractor for the military. He was a Green Beret. They called him up. They said they needed some protection in Gaza. Would he be interested? He signed up. He goes over there. He came on my show and said, Rob, what is going on over there is horrific. And he was very anti-IDF. Very anti-IDF, and he was all over the news. He was a major player in that conversation. Then I bring on this Dr. Mimi Syed, and she is just a doctor who went over there to help people because she's kind of one of those doctors that likes to help people. Remember those people, Isaiah? Not the ones that are chasing money all the time, but the people who actually care about people and wanted to help them. She's one of those people. And she went over there, and she gave the exact same portrayal about what was going on in Gaza as the other guy did, who was the Green Beret. And I said, well, how do people just ignore that this is happening? Why do they say this is no big deal? How do you justify shooting a 12-year-old trying to get food in the back of the head and then say that it's okay because it's 5D chess? I don't understand it. I could be wrong.
It's an eye for an eye. That's the thing, is that's wrong. It's hard for this is that's their views. They really have, they get justice. So got to bring in Jake Jackson here really quick again, just to give us some big news here. So he's still in the back room. So I'm going to bring him in here, Rob, because we got some big news about St. Charles County here.
Give it to me, baby.
I have some really good news. So St. Charles County Police have just dropped flock cameras following a data abuse incident.
You know it's true.
Yeah.
There we go. Right. I just got reached out to by Camel Who, no one answered me today. But it says the St. Charles County Police Department said it will stop using flock cameras after a civilian employee abused the camera system. Police Chief Kurt Fritz learned on August 12th of an abnormal pattern of searches on the flock cameras by a civilian employee, according to the county. The chief ordered an internal investigation where the employee admitted to inappropriate use of the system for personal, non-law enforcement purposes. The county said it discovered the abuse after receiving a new audit tool it recently obtained that automatically scans for questionable searches from January 1st, 2026 onward. The employee was put on unpaid leave during the investigation and was provided a notice of termination according to the county. The employee, who did not identify due to personnel ordinances, then resigned. According to Fritz, this employee's egregious misuse of the data system may be limited to a personal matter, but I'm committed to ensuring that every use of tools law enforcement have audited for my own access to the newest recruit, Fritz said, and then we ensure we audit the auditors. The St. Charles County Police Department was one of several local departments that use license plate readers to track vehicles wanted in connection with crimes. And that's about it. The county said the investigation will be handed over to outside police agency, and we will determine if criminal charges will be sought.
I love it. And wouldn't it be nice?
Flock cameras in St. Charles County. Let's go.
Who was behind that, Jake? Who was screaming that from the very beginning?
Me.
That's right.
This is amazing news. So yeah.
Well, it's great news because it does show you that there are good people in our government. There are good people, really good people.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's perspective, and when the grassroots, and grassroots is kind of almost overused, but when citizens get involved in their government and say, we don't want this, and you bring around pressure, and then these stories start to come up, it only adds to what we're trying to accomplish. And that's why I say, if we just get involved in, like Jake does, why can't everybody young just spend, one day a week to pay attention to what goes on in government, make life better for their citizens and for their families, and then all of a sudden great things can happen. It'd be nice to see this happen at the state level, wouldn't it, Jake? Is that next?
Absolutely, yeah. And now we need the local municipalities like St. Peter's, Wentzville, Fallon to get rid of the flock cameras as well. So this is really good news. Now they really need to implement a ban on the flock cameras and any kind of like cameras that track citizens. You know what I mean?
Yep. Now, does St. Charles County, does that mean all of those towns like St. Peter's and O'Fallon and all of that, or is that just St. Charles?
It's just like unincorporated St. Charles County, and so I think this will definitely put downward pressure on those local municipalities to stop it.
Who can stop it, Elman?
I don't know what he could do. I think we'll have to explore it, but I think these local municipalities have some sort of autonomy because like Bill Eigel, for example, he could have banned apartment complexes, but St. Peter's can say screw it, and they can continue approving complexes, and so I think it's about downward pressure. Okay, now you guys need to follow suit.
Gotcha. I love St. Charles County, but I got to say, I moved out in St. Charles County. I bought my first house in O'Fallon, Missouri in 1999. My mom moved out there in the late 80s. And I remember going down Highway K when I was a kid, and it was pitch dark from Highway 70 all the way to 4061. It was completely dark, kind of ominous when you were driving down the road back in those days. And now you look at it, and there's retail on both sides from end to end. It takes you an hour to get through traffic to go from one side to the end. Back in those days, It was a 10-minute ride. And it is just so exploded, St. Charles County. And when you add all the apartment complexes on top of it, it feels like you left St. Louis County to get a little bit more land and a little bit more open space and a little bit cleaner air. And over the course of the last 25 years, it's turned into St. Louis County. It feels almost exactly the same. I mean, it's better. I like St. Charles County better, but I don't know why. Everybody thinks that you have to have this explosive growth to have a society that you're proud of. And you don't
growth, yeah.
You don't need it all the time. Anyway, thanks, Jake. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That was a big deal to you, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You got it. All right, Isaiah, that's all I got for everybody. Again, Mark Mitchell tomorrow. I want to say that Robert Workman, let me just check it out. So I don't want to, Robert's probably listening. He'll say, Rob, don't mess with me. Hang on a minute. I'll make sure I take care of him. Rob Workman, he is.
Are you excited about
that's next week. So it's Mark Mitchell tomorrow.
Okay.
Well,
you excited about the Grand Prix this weekend in Washington, D.C.?
Is that what's going on? Yeah. I'm so out of the loop with what's going on in mainstream media.
It's like, we're at war with Iran, but patriotism, everyone, we're gonna drive race cars in front of the White House. It's great.
It's P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
All right.
It's just so funny to me. I think it's that's what people want right now, I'm sure, right? They're just that's what we need.
Yeah, that's right. And if you don't want to go, you can watch it on your television sets at Moe's Pizza in Washington, Missouri, because they have television sets all over the place. And when it's time for lunch and you're in Washington, Missouri, Isaiah, where are you going?
I'm going to Moe's to get some chicken wings personally and eat probably 25 pieces of pizza like we did last time.
We do get after it just a little bit. Moe's Pizza in Washington, Missouri. When it's time for lunch, it's always Moe's Pizza. If you've not been out there yet, if you're in the area and you haven't been to Moe's Pizza, go check it out. Pizza and salad bar, chicken wings, sandwiches, delicious ice cream, and now burgers. Their burgers on their screen look amazing, so I'll have to check out a burger next time I'm in town. Get out there. Great people, big, proud supporters of good governance. That's what they're all about. They have meeting rooms available, or a meeting space, I should say, available for birthday parties, anniversaries, Bible studies, and political meetings. So if you have any kind of banquet facility, or if you need a banquet facility, think Moe's Pizza. As he likes to tell me, God owns the place. I just work here, Rob. Moe's Pizza, a landmark in Washington, Missouri, at the corner of Grand and 5th Street. Great people, great environment. Get out there and have some pizza. When it's time for lunch, it's always Moe's Pizza. Get there. All right.
Right.
We'll
He was probably loving the Bible talk today, Mike. I know he loves when we're bringing up the Bible and talking about it. So
do I.
Probably love that Sheriff Bonham brought that up.
I love it. I love it when we talk about it. That's why I love having you comment on it, because it's something that I'm trying to understand better and better every day. And left to my own devices, Isaiah, we talk about it all the time. I'm a mess unless I stay grounded. Yes. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Have a great day, everybody.
See you guys.